Chapter 245. Shopping in the park and going to the temple on the first day of a new year was a Chinese custom, and billionaires were no exception. When Charlotte drove to Jingshan Park, Shun Tianyin and Shun Turin were already waiting there. Shun Turin was sitting in a wheelchair, and the person pushing the wheelchair was his most loyal man, Fu Chuanfu. Fu Mingmei and a few bodyguards were following him, and the security was tight. Charlotte parked the car and walked over. Shinta Tianyin smiled at him. Under the spring sun, the smile with two dimples was even brighter. With a delicate and beautiful face and a well-sculpted sexy body, her beauty was impeccable. Shun Turin raised a hand and waved at Charlotte. Charlotte strode over and said with a smile, "Uncle Run, you can already raise your hand. You've recovered well. It's all thanks to you," Shun Turin said with a smile. "If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would still be waiting for death in bed." "Uncle Run, you're welcome," said Charlotte. "By the way, what have you been busy with? You haven't come to see me for so long." Shun Turin pretended to be unhappy. Charlotte said, "There's something wrong with the company. I also want to see you, but I can't spare the time." "Has it been solved?" asked Shun Turin. Charlotte said, "It's all solved." Shun Turin said, "That's good. If you encounter any trouble in the future, just tell me. As long as I can do it, I will definitely help you." "Well, thank you," said Charlotte very politely. Shun Tianyin said, "Let's go in." Shun Turin said, "You guys go in first. I'll let Chuanfu accompany me to bask in the sun for a while." "Well, the sun is really good today. It makes people feel warm and comfortable." Shun Tianyin looked at Charlotte and smiled slightly. "Then let's go in and have a look." "Well, okay." Charlotte followed Shun Tianyin into the gate of the park. There were many people in the park. There were old people, children, young couples, and hawkers. The scene was very lively. None of the bodyguards brought by Shun Tianyin came with her, not even her personal bodyguard, Fu Mingmei. However, with Charlotte by her side, she felt a strong sense of security. She took Charlotte to the busiest places. "I want to eat Candyman." When they passed by a vendor selling sugar figurines, Shun Tianyin's eyes lit up, and she seemed to be reminded of her childhood memories. She refused to leave. Charlotte smiled and said, "If you want to eat it, then buy it." Shun Tianyin looked a little embarrassed. "But I didn't bring any money. I'll go buy it for you." Charlotte walked over to the candy stall. Shun Tianyin moved closer to Charlotte. "I want to eat a phoenix." Charlotte took a phoenix sugar figurine from a straw and gave it to Shun Tianyin. Shun Tianyin took a dragon-shaped sugar figurine from a straw and put it in Charlotte's hand. "You eat this." Charlotte smiled and said, "I haven't eaten sugar figurines for many years. It's good to try it." Charlotte paid and was pulled by Shun Tianyin to other lively places. After walking around, the two got on a sightseeing cable car. The sightseeing cable car had a wide view. They could see the sea, and the park was surrounded by mountains on three sides. It was very good. "Why didn't you let me help you last time?" In the sightseeing cable car, Shun Tianyin asked while looking at the scenery outside the window. Just now, she was still as lively and happy as a little girl. Now, she had become the queen of the Wanxiang group. She had a strong aura. Charlotte said, "I actually thought about accepting your help, but I thought about it. If you help me, it will be nothing more than a war with the Gu family's northern group, killing 800 enemies and losing 1,000 of your own. Why would you do such a worthless thing? I can solve it." In fact, Charlotte not only solved the problem, but also broke out under the pressure of the Gu family. The branch was being built quickly, and outsourcing companies everywhere were also working overtime to complete Lima Manufacturing Company's orders. If it weren't for the Gu family's strangulation, he would probably still be content with the status quo. He wouldn't even think about opening a branch and outsourcing products. Shun Tianyin retracted her gaze from the window. She looked at Charlotte with a faint smile. "Such a big Gu family can't do anything to you. Gu Dingshan is really disgraced this time. However, with his personality, he won't just let it go. You have to be careful. The next time he troubles you, don't forget me. Don't refuse my help." Charlotte smiled. "If there's a need, I will definitely tell you." "Well, haven't you contacted Miss Liang during this time?" Charlotte shook his head and said nothing. He didn't know what to say. He didn't even tell Long Bing about Liang Xiao's identity. How could he tell Shinta Tianyin? Shinta Tianyin didn't ask further, and she also calmed down. She once told her father, Shan Turin, that she was Shinta Tianyin and that the man she liked should pursue her. However, after a period of time, Charlotte didn't even call her, let alone take the initiative to ask her out for dinner or a movie. Her confidence began to waver. This was probably the reason why she asked Charlotte to go to the park on the first day of the new year. However, Charlotte didn't try to please her as much as she imagined. This made her feel a little disappointed. Charlotte's gaze also moved to the window, but it was an inadvertent glance. His gaze stopped on the ground. A young man was holding a camera and taking pictures of the cable car that he and Shinta Tianyin were on. Taking pictures of a cable car moving in the air? Charlotte suddenly had a trace of doubt in his heart. In the vision of his left eye, the young man on the ground became clear in the blink of an eye. Ruthless and indifferent. This was the first feeling that Charlotte had after seeing the young man's face. The young man also seemed to see Charlotte looking at him through the lens of the SLR camera. He moved the lens away and pretended to take pictures of other places. He took a few pictures and then blended into the crowd. Charlotte's gaze was locked on the young man. However, the young man walked in the opposite direction. The cable car slid at a constant speed toward the top of the mountain. After a distance, Charlotte still lost the target. That guy is obviously spying on me and Tianyin. Is he from the Goof family or the CIB? Charlotte secretly pondered in his heart. The Goof family was very quiet during this period of time. The CIB didn't make any moves after Liang Xiao left China. On the surface, it seemed like a calm situation, but Charlotte didn't let his guard down for a day because he knew that the Goof family wouldn't let him go, and the CIB would never give up on him, the only person who took the CE capsule. What are you looking at? Shinta Tianyin broke the silence in the cable car. There is someone taking pictures of us just now. Charlotte said. Shinta Tianyin went to the window and looked down, but what she saw was a dense forest. There were a lot of people in the distance, but she couldn't even see the faces of the people closest to her. She asked curiously, "Where is he?" Charlotte said. "When I found him, he had already left in the opposite direction." Shinta Tianyin looked again and felt that it was too far. She smiled and said, "Maybe you were too nervous and made a mistake." Would a person who didn't even need a scope to use a sniper rifle make a mistake? Charlotte knew very well what he saw, but he couldn't guess whether the person was from the Goof family or the CIB. Compared to the former situation, the latter situation worried him more. "By the way, I know you opened a branch in Sichuan. How's the progress?" Shinta Tianyin changed the topic. Charlotte said, "It's okay. It can go into production in another 2 to 3 months. If you need money, just let me know. I may not be able to help with other things, but I can help you with this kind of thing at any time." Shinta Tianyin said. Charlotte suddenly thought of Anina's 2 plans. One was the plan to manufacture a car engine that required 5 billion, and the other was the plan to produce a sniper rifle that required 300 million. No matter which plan it was, he couldn't get the money. If he asked Shinta Tianyin for a loan, how much could she lend him? The idea of borrowing money flashed through his mind, but a voice of denial sounded in Charlotte's mind at the same time. "She may be able to lend me a few hundred million, but 2 or 3 billion is too much. I helped her before. If I borrow so much money from her, she and Shinturin will probably think that I am the kind of person who would repay kindness, right? It's for Shun Turin's money. Even if I have the money for the plan to produce the engine, the current conditions are not mature. As for the plan to produce the sniper rifle, even if I don't have the money, I can ask the country to give me a loan, and it's the kind of loan that doesn't require interest. Why should I borrow money from her and owe her a favor instead?" Indeed, if he chose Anina's second plan to produce a sniper rifle, he didn't need to worry about money at all, because 101 innings wanted him to do so. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent Anina a lobbyist. In this case, as long as he nodded and agreed, would he have to worry about the country not giving him money and equipment? He still needed to consider a problem when borrowing money from the Shunturin family. If Shinta Tianyin or Shunturin asked for shares, how would he answer at that time? Although he was thinking this way, Charlotte's face revealed a smile. Thank you. I don't need it for the time being. If I really need money, I will definitely ask you. At that time, don't reject me. Shinta Tianyin rolled her eyes at Charlotte coquettishly. Try asking me, and see if I can lend it to you. Charlotte smiled and said, Then can you lend me 10 yuan now? Shinta Tianyin was stunned for a moment. Only then did she remember that she didn't bring any money with her. She looked at Charlotte awkwardly, with a coquettish look in her eyes. Charlotte laughed and said, I'm joking with you. If I really need to borrow money, I will definitely ask you to lend it to me. The cable car stopped at the terminal, and Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin came to the viewing platform. Charlotte observed the tourists on the platform, but he didn't see the young man again. Don't go home for lunch today. Come to my house for lunch, Shinta Tianyin said. Charlotte said, Okay, I will also give Rinshu a massage and acupuncture. This will help him recover. Shinta Tianyin pursed her lips and smiled. My dad is full of praise for you. He talks about you in my ear all day. You should really come to my house to see him. Yes, I will come often in the future. Let's go down the mountain. Your dad and the others should have entered the park by now, Charlotte said. The two took the cable car down the mountain and met Shun Turin in the park. The group chatted and laughed as they strolled around. Charlotte once again used the ability of his left eye to observe the surrounding environment, but he still couldn't find the young man. However, although he couldn't see him, Charlotte still had a strange feeling. He felt that the young man was hiding in a place that he couldn't find and spying on him. A person that I can't even see. How strong is his anti-surveillance ability? Who is he? The young man was like a ghost, and his appearance lingered in Charlotte's mind. Chapter 246. Not long after noon, Charlotte left Shinta-ren's house. Shinta-ren originally wanted to ask Charlotte to stay for dinner, but Charlotte declined because he promised to accompany Anina for dinner. It was only because of Anina's special identity that he did not say it out loud. As the black BMW M6 drove further and further away, Shinta-ren withdrew his gaze. He looked at Shinta Tianyin beside him and said lightly, What was his reaction? Only then did Shinta Tianyin withdraw his gaze. Dad, what do you want to say? What reaction? Shinta-ren smiled. My daughter is the most outstanding woman in the world. Isn't he moved? The reaction I'm talking about is, of course, did he confess to you or something? Shinta Tianyin shook his head. No. What about the hint? Nothing. Shinta-ren frowned. This kid, what is he thinking? I also want to know. Shinta Tianyin sighed. He's hard to fathom. Daughter, why don't you take the initiative? No, he should take the initiative. Shinta Tianyin said lightly. I've said it before. The man I like should be the one to pursue me, not the other way around. Dad, don't worry about this. He and I are both people who prioritize our careers. We should give each other some time and space. Forget it. I'd better worry about my own body. Charlotte's skill is really good. After he gave me the acupuncture massage, I felt my whole body relax. All right, when will he come again? I don't know, but he said he would come to see you often. Shinta Tianyin pushed Shinta-ren towards the door. Shinta-ren laughed and said, Visiting me is fake, but visiting you is real, right? The two of you clearly have feelings for each other, but you just won't say anything. Shinta Tianyin looked a little embarrassed and annoyed. Dad, if you say anything else, I won't push you anymore. I'll let you row back yourself. Shinta-ren shook his head and smiled bitterly. Okay, I won't say anything, okay? The father and daughter entered the door, and the red lacquered door was closed. Night fell, but the old house was filled with a warm and festive atmosphere. Charlotte busied himself for 2 to 3 hours, cooking up a table full of delicious dishes. Not only was there Chinese food and Xia Shui's favorite sweet and sour ribs, but he also took care of Anina's taste and made several German-style Western dishes, such as Christmas salad, beef rolls, and pig's hamburger. The three of them drank 2 bottles of red wine. The one with the worst alcohol tolerance was naturally Xia Shui. After drinking 2 glasses of red wine, she couldn't take it anymore. She went back to the house to sleep. Charlotte and Anina, on the other hand, opened another bottle. While drinking, they talked about the sniper rifle production line. After this conversation, Charlotte realized that it was a mistake to simply use the term advanced mechanic to measure Nina. Deep down, she was actually a firearms expert. From the world's most advanced Leopard 2 tank to the P299 pistol produced by Germany's SIG company, she talked about them casually, as if she was familiar with them. The longer he chatted with her, the more Charlotte understood why Long Bing wanted Nina to join the logistics unit of 101 innings. Such a firearms expert, if placed in any developing China, would be a top talent that was hard to find. That, Nina, did Long Bing or anyone else ask you to join our military factory? Charlotte probed. Yes, Long Bing. And there was an old man, sure. They lobbied me to join some Shenzhou industrial group, but I didn't agree. I told them very clearly that I wouldn't go anywhere except for your Lima manufacturing company, said Nina. Charlotte understood the situation and said with a smile, well, I will find a way to get you to come over. Let's do something big together. Nina poured wine into Charlotte's cup and said, do you still remember? In the forest in my hometown, you taught me how to shoot? Charlotte clinked glasses with her. I remember, we killed those ** cheese together. Nina giggled. So you also know how to use vulgarities. I always thought you were a very gentle and shy man. Don't forget, I'm a spy. I know how to pretend. I'm not a gentle and shy man. I'm very fierce. When he was half drunk, Charlotte became talkative. Men all had the problem of bragging. It was just that it wasn't obvious when he was drunk, but it would show up when he was drunk. You're very powerful, I know, but I also know you're not pretending. Nina said with a smile, I've been in China for such a long time, and I've thought about everything that happened between us. I know that the person I've met is the real you, and not some fake one. Actually, I also know that you're just a temporary spy, not a real spy. Did I say that? Charlotte was a little embarrassed when his lie was exposed. It's all in the past. Don't mention it again. No, I'll never forget that time in my life. You're like an angel that suddenly appeared in my life. Nina looked at Charlotte affectionately. She was also almost drunk, and her beautiful face was flushed. Under the warm light, the ambiguous gaze, and the blush on her cheeks, the beauty and sexiness of the German female mechanic quietly appeared in front of him. She was like a wonderful novel that people could hold and read all night. However, Charlotte avoided her gaze. Let's drink one last glass, and then it's time to rest. To our reunion. Nina raised her glass. To our reunion. Charlotte clinked glasses with her, and then drank the red wine in the glass in one gulp. Nina got up and went into Charlotte's room. Charlotte cleaned up the dishes and then returned to his father's room. After washing up, Charlotte lay on the bed, quietly thinking about how to ask Long Bing to agree to let Nina return to his side, and how to ask for an interest-free loan to build a sniper rifle production line. Negotiation required skills, especially when it involved hundreds of millions of interest-free loans, and Nina's identity couldn't be exposed. He had to think about how to ask, and he also had to consider the various reactions of Long Bing and Sherborne. After thinking about this matter, that mysterious young man unknowingly appeared in his mind again. Dong dong. There was a light knock on the door, and then came Nina's voice. Lei, are you asleep? Knocking at the door at night. What does she want? Charlotte's heart was inexplicably nervous. His left eye twitched slightly, and Nina, who was standing outside the door, suddenly came into his sight. She probably just took a shower. Her hair was still wet, and she was only wearing a set of pajamas. The pajamas that Xia Shui gave her were definitely new, but Xia Shui's figure was a lot different from hers. The set of pajamas seemed small and tight on her body. The buttons on the neckline couldn't be buttoned. At least 1/3 of her chest was exposed, and her navel wasn't covered. A smooth and delicate lower abdomen was exposed to the air without any cover. The trousers were even more funny. A long calf was exposed to the air. But this wasn't the most embarrassing thing. The most embarrassing thing was that because the trousers were too short, the lower end of her pelvis was completely exposed in his field of vision. A touch of faint golden color was also revealed, which was very attractive. However, there was also the tightly wrapped buttocks and the secret shape that was outlined vividly by the fabric. Xia Shui, that stupid girl, Didn't she know to go to the clothing store to buy a suit for Anina? Lay, are you asleep? Anina asked again. Charlotte wanted to remain silent and create the illusion that he was asleep, but then he saw a plan in Anina's hand. He finally couldn't hold it and said, I'm not asleep. Please come in. The door wasn't locked. Anina grabbed the door handle and gently pushed it open. Anina entered the door and reached out to close the door. Charlotte stared at her. There was a subtle feeling in his heart. He couldn't help but think, why did she close the door? Charlotte wanted to get out of bed, but Anina said, it's a little cold at night. You can stay on the bed. Are you going to discuss your plan with me? Charlotte probed. Anina took off her slippers and climbed onto the bed neatly. Then, she put the plan in front of Charlotte in a serious manner. Of course, I finished part of it. I want to discuss it with you. As she spoke, she simply got into Charlotte's quilt. She was afraid of the cold, so it was natural for her to get into the quilt. A woman got into the quilt, and it was a beautiful and sexy foreign girl. How could Charlotte maintain a calm state of mind to discuss the plan? However, he still bit the bullet and opened Anina's plan. Anina's plan was very professional, but Charlotte didn't have the mood to read it carefully. His nostrils were filled with Anina's charming fragrance. His mind was also full of Anina's sexy buttocks. The buttocks of Western women were very sexy. Few Eastern women could compare, and Anina's buttocks were the best among Western women. At this moment, he couldn't control himself to imagine her buttocks. Anina leaned over and pressed her face against Xiaolei's shoulder. Her chin was almost resting on his shoulder. Then, she whispered into Xiaolei's ear, tell me if there's anything you think isn't perfect. I'll make some changes. Hot breath rolled into his ear, and Charlotte's whole body felt itchy and numb. The plan was in his hand, but he couldn't feel its existence. His mind was a jumbled mess, and his willpower was slowly fading. At this moment, Anina kissed Charlotte's ear. Lucas, I know it's hard for you to fall in love with me. It might take a long time, but I already love you so much that I can't help myself. I don't have the patience to wait for you to fall in love with me before doing it with me. I want to do it with you now. You promised me that in Germany, you can't go back on your word. I promised you. Charlotte couldn't remember when he promised her such a thing. You did promise me. Anina suddenly pushed him down, and then she was on top of him. The plan fell under the bed, separated to the left and right, as if it was a door to a world of pleasure. But it wasn't the only thing that fell under the bed. In a short minute, Anina's funny pajamas also fell to the ground, and so did Charlotte's. Anina had the rationality that Western women had, and she was right. It was very difficult for Charlotte to fall in love with her, at least not now. But that didn't stop this kind of happy thing from happening. In Germany, just one good impression could make a girl and a boy walk into a hotel room, not to mention that she was already deeply in love with the angel Lucas who had barged into her life. And from Charlotte's point of view, he couldn't reject Anina anymore. He had already hurt her enough, and he couldn't hurt her again. More importantly, after breaking up with Liang Xiao for so long, he was already a pile of dry wood that had been splashed with oil. He would burn at the slightest provocation. So how could he still think so much? Outside the window, the night sky was clear, and the bright moon hid behind the only cloud. The chaotic scene in the room seemed to be unbearable to look at. Chapter 247. Brother, Sister Xiaomei, wake up and eat. Xia Shui's voice sounded from outside the door. The two tired people in the bed woke up and hurriedly looked for clothes to put on. Charlotte's situation was still normal, but Anina could only wear children's pajamas to go out. Xia Shui hugged her arms and looked at Anina, who had slipped out of her brother's room in a panic. When she saw Anina's comically small pajamas, she tried very hard not to laugh. Anina smiled awkwardly at Xia Shui. I actually just went in not long ago. I'm looking for your brother to talk about my proposal. After she finished speaking, she deliberately waved her proposal. Her body language seemed to be, look, proposal. It's really a proposal. I'm not lying to you. Xia Shui nodded seriously. I know. But what I want to say is that it's already 10 in the morning, and I woke up at 5. Anina blinked her big blue eyes, then covered a third of her exposed butt and slipped back into Charlotte's room. Charlotte went out in a suit. He didn't look like someone who had just woken up, but like a celebrity going to an important social event. Isn't it time for breakfast? What are you still standing here for? Why are you looking at me like that? Charlotte put on the airs of an older brother. Xia Shui burst out laughing. Brother, you guys are really diligent. You even talked about work in bed. All right, what did you say to me? You guys are just good friends? Charlotte's face immediately reddened. Go away, go away. Do what you need to do. You're just a child. Why are you poking your nose into adult matters? Xia Shui pouted. I'm an adult, okay? You keep treating me like a child and ignoring me. Charlotte smiled bitterly and shook his head. It looked like he really had to buy a bigger house. It would be best if it was a 2-story or 3-story villa. After all, his sister was an adult. The situation in front of him was still very awkward. Breakfast proceeded in an awkward atmosphere and ended in an awkward atmosphere. Even Anina, who was usually cheerful and talkative, had become much more well-behaved. After breakfast, Xia Shui said, Brother, I'm going to play with my best friend. You don't have to wait for me for lunch. Charlotte said, Go. Be careful on the road. Xia Shui then said to Anina, Sister Xiaomei, goodbye. Goodbye, Xiao Shui. Anina secretly let out a sigh of relief. She couldn't wait for Xia Shui to leave. When Xia Shui walked to the door, Charlotte suddenly thought of something. He called out to Xia Shui, Wait, I will let Lu Sheng follow you. He's on duty at the company. Just wait for a while. He'll be here in about 15 minutes. Xia Shui looked very surprised. Brother, you want me to bring a bodyguard? I'm not a princess. I don't have bodyguards. My best friend will say that I'm putting on airs. I don't want to lose friends. Charlotte frowned. Listen to me. Have you forgotten what happened last time? None of the Gu family members were good people. They could do anything. Yesterday, I found a very suspicious person. What if he hurts you? Is that so? Xia Shui was frightened. Charlotte's tone also softened a little. I will let Lu Sheng follow you. He is very professional. Your best friend won't find him. All right then. I will let Brother Sheng take me. Xia Shui also compromised. Charlotte called Lu Sheng. In less than 20 minutes, Lu Sheng came over. Charlotte explained the situation to him. He gladly agreed and left with Xia Shui. After Liang Xiao left, Charlotte originally thought that Lu Sheng would also leave. This was because when Lu Sheng left Zhang Sen's side to come to his side, one of the most important reasons was Liang Xiao. But now it seemed that Lu Sheng was not the kind of man who would be swayed by emotions. Moreover, the salary he offered was much higher than what Zhang Sen gave Lu Sheng. Moreover, after returning from a mate, Jinding, Lu Sheng's relationship with him was better than before. Could the suspicious person you're talking about be someone from the United States? The CIA? Anina was also very nervous, but she didn't dare to say so in front of Xia Shui and Lu Sheng. The young man's face appeared in Charlotte's mind again. He pondered for a moment. It doesn't seem like it, but I can't be sure. Anyway, you have to be careful. Don't show your face at the window, and don't go out. Anina shrugged. I didn't leave your house yesterday. I have someone to protect me, but you don't. You have to be more careful. Let's talk about your proposal. Last night, Charlotte didn't continue. Last night, he experienced the wildness of a Germanic woman. He would probably never forget those absurd scenes in his life. Anina also looked a little shy. You still dare to talk about it? Last night, I was played by you. Her shy appearance, her eyes, and this soft and sexy voice made a part of Charlotte's body suddenly awaken. Then, the soreness in his waist and legs also appeared, making him feel even more troubled. He said awkwardly, let's talk about the proposal. Anina winked at Charlotte. Let's discuss it in the room. Charlotte. Anina took Charlotte's arm and led him into the room. Charlotte's waist and legs inexplicably became even more sore. The difficulty of subduing a German girl who was 185 meters tall was not just a little bit high. It wasn't until 2 in the afternoon that Charlotte finally finished reading the 5-page proposal that Anina had written yesterday. He had to admit that Anina was an expert in this field. Although her proposal was only 5 pages long, it described in detail the required equipment, manpower, and funds. He understood everything at a glance and had a general impression in his heart. Of course, he actually only spent an hour on this proposal. How much time do you need to complete it all? Charlotte put down the proposal that he had finished reading and looked at Anina as he asked. Anina, whose hair was a mess, thought for a moment. I don't have an assistant, so I'll need about half a month to complete the proposal. I want to stay here for half a month. Can you tell Ongbing? Charlotte subconsciously rubbed his extremely sore waist with a strange expression. She's a very difficult person to talk to. I don't think I can. She was already so tired after 1.5 days. If she stayed here for half a month, wouldn't she have to be hospitalized? Then forget it. I'll come to your company sooner or later anyway, said Anina. Xiaolei let out a silent sigh of relief. Give me the proposal in half a month. I'll go talk to Longbing and Boss Sure. You'll probably be able to come to my company when we're done. Really? That's great. I'll finish this proposal as soon as possible. Anina hugged Charlotte excitedly. Charlotte suddenly became nervous. Luckily, his phone suddenly rang. The call was from Xia Shui. He heard her voice as soon as he answered. It was full of anxiety and nervousness. Brother Shangi? Charlotte's heart sank. What happened to Lu Sheng? Don't worry, speak slowly. Xia Shui cried over the phone. He was stabbed. Come here quickly. I'm scared. Where are you? We're at the entrance of Dahua Mall on Lovers Road. My friends and I were planning to go to Fox Island to play, but someone suddenly attacked me and wanted to drag me into a car. Brother Sheng rushed over to fight him, but in the blink of an eye, Brother Sheng was stabbed by that person. Brother, I'm scared. Woo. Xia Shui sobbed and couldn't continue. Charlotte said, Don't be scared. Call the ambulance and then call the police. I'll come over immediately. He hung up the phone, got up and walked out while saying, Anina, something happened. Stay at home alone and don't go out. Call me if anything happens. What happened? Anina asked worriedly. I'll tell you when I get back. Stay at home. I'm leaving. Charlotte went out the door. The black BMW M6 sped along the road, reaching 150 kilometers per hour. However, Charlotte wished he could grow a pair of wings and fly to Xia Shui's side in an instant. Although he didn't see the person who tried to kidnap Xia Shui with his own eyes, Charlotte thought of the mysterious young man. Lu Sheng was a retired Special Forces soldier. He had learned Sanda and Wing Chun for 3 years. A man like him was not someone who could be defeated so easily. However, he was stabbed in the blink of an eye. How strong was the person who did it? An invisible pressure spread in Charlotte's heart. His anger was burning wildly. How dare you attack my sister? I only have one sister. She's my life. I don't care if you're from the Gu family or the CIA. If you hurt my sister, I'll take your life. If the one who made the move was that mysterious young man, was he from the Gu family or was he from the CIA? Charlotte also made a preliminary judgment. It was the Gu family. Because the American CIA's target was him, they wouldn't touch Xia Shui. Although this judgment wasn't absolutely correct, it was at least 80% certain. Then, after eliminating the American CIA, the only ones left were the Gu family. Gu Qian and Gu Qian's faces appeared in Charlotte's mind. He gritted his teeth, and his expression was ferocious. This time, he really had the intention to kill. Before the car reached Love Road, Xia Shui called again and said that she didn't need to go to Love Road. She had followed the ambulance to the hospital in that area. 20 minutes later, Charlotte arrived at the hospital. As soon as he entered, he saw Xia Shui waiting for him in the hall. When Xia Shui saw Charlotte, she threw herself into his arms and burst into tears. Brother, sob. Charlotte comforted her. Don't be afraid. I'm here. No one can hurt you. Xia Shui cried for a while. Some of the fear in her heart was released, and her emotions stabilized a little. Tell me, what did that person look like? Charlotte asked. Xia Shui said. He covered his face. I didn't see his face, but you can't guess his figure. He was very strong. He was so scary. With just this description, Charlotte was sure that the person was the young man who had secretly taken photos of him and Shinda Tianyin in Mount Jing Park. That was because the young man's figure was very similar to his. A policeman came over. Miss, I have some questions to ask you. Please help us with the police investigation. Xia Shui glanced at Charlotte. Charlotte said, "Go, I'll go see Lu Sheng." Xia Shui followed the policeman. Charlotte came to the door of the operating room. There were 2 policemen guarding the door of the operating room. The door was closed, so they couldn't see Lu Sheng, who was in the middle of the operation. Charlotte's left eye twitched slightly, and the scene in the operating room suddenly entered his vision. In the operating room, 2 doctors were operating on Lu Sheng, and there were several nurses next to them. Lu Sheng, who was lying on the operating table, had his eyes closed and his mouth covered with an oxygen mask. There were 3 knife wounds on his body. One was on his lower abdomen, one was on his arm, and one was below his heart. The knife mountain below his heart was obviously the most serious. If it had gone up 1 centimeter, Lu Sheng would have been dead. "Lu Sheng, don't worry. I will get justice for you." A cold voice sounded in Charlotte's mind. Chapter 248. In the VIP ward, Lu Sheng, who had just woken up, saw Charlotte and Xia Shui standing beside the bed. The first thing he said was, "Why are you staying in such a good ward? An ordinary ward is fine." Charlotte's heart was moved. "Brother Sheng, don't worry about these things. I have already talked to the hospital. I want them to use the best medicine and the best doctor. You must be cured." Lu Sheng smiled bitterly. "I won't die. It's just that I frightened little Shui. I feel very sorry." Charlotte said, "Brother Sheng, you are not allowed to say such things in the future. If it weren't for you, little Shui's situation would definitely be 10,000 times worse. I don't even dare to think about it. You saved little Shui's life. You were stabbed 3 times. I won't let you suffer in vain." Lu Sheng seemed to know what Charlotte was going to say. He hurriedly interrupted Charlotte and said, "I am a bodyguard. This is my job." Charlotte said, "You and I are from the same sect. You are also my senior. What bodyguard? Little Shui and I have never treated you as an outsider. I have already decided. You used to have an annual salary of 200,000. Now, you will have a monthly salary of 200,000. Lu Sheng was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. A monthly salary of 200,000. An annual salary of 2,400,000. With bonuses, it was definitely close to 3 million. Such a salary was no different from that of a senior executive in a large company. He had never dreamt that a small bodyguard could earn so much. "Brother Sheng, thank you." Xia Shui also said a sentence. Lu Sheng smiled bitterly. "What are you 2 doing? You really don't have to do this. How can I take so much from you?" Charlotte said, "Brother Sheng, don't say any more. In the future, what is mine will be yours. Your business will also be mine. If you need me in the future, just let me know. If you refuse, then you don't treat me as a brother." "Well, I can't win against you." Lu Sheng no longer declined. "Brother Sheng, you fought with that person before. Why don't you tell me about it?" Charlotte changed the topic. Lu Sheng recalled for a moment and frowned. There was a hint of fear in his eyes. "That person, he covered his face, but I know that he was very young, about the same age as you. Yes, his figure is similar to yours. I've never seen someone as ruthless as him. He moves so quickly that it's impossible to guard against him. He stabbed me 3 times. I couldn't dodge the first 2, but I managed to dodge the last stab. Otherwise, I would have lost my life. Lazy, if you meet him, you must be very careful. That guy is definitely a top-notch assassin. The things he knows are not things that we martial artists can understand. The purpose of practicing martial arts was to strengthen the body. The purpose of an assassin was to kill. Different objectives required different things to curry favor with. Therefore, a martial artist could not be compared to an assassin. There was a saying that if a martial arts expert and an assassin were to fight in the ring, then the martial arts expert would have a high chance of winning against the assassin. But once they were out of the ring and fighting with their lives on the line, the assassin would have a high chance of killing the martial arts expert. Brother Sheng, no matter how powerful he is, I will definitely get justice for you. Charlotte said, "Don't." Lu Sheng hurriedly said, "I don't want you to fight with that guy. Let me tell you, that guy is more difficult to deal with than the American Bruce Long you defeated. Really, it's just that I can't describe the feeling to you at that time. It was too scary." Charlotte said, "Don't worry, I won't act recklessly. You rest. I'll come to see you tomorrow. Lu Shang said, You don't have to come to see me. You do your thing. This injury won't kill you. Charlotte nodded and left the hospital with Xia Shui. Walking out of the hospital, the cool night wind blew across his cheeks. Charlotte's anger subsided. Then, he saw the woman standing next to his black BMW M6. Black dress, black high-heeled shoes, black handbag, tall figure, indifferent expression. Her body always combined three elements, which were mystery, sex appeal, and danger. Sister Bing, when did you come? Xia Shui went up and greeted Long Bing affectionately. Long Bing said faintly, An hour ago, I got the news and flew over. You get in the car first. I want to talk to your brother. Xia Shui responded obediently and got into her brother's car. In her world, Long Bing was not a candidate for sister-in-law, but she was definitely an elder sister. She always listened to what Long Bing said. Charlotte walked over to Long Bing. He was not surprised by Long Bing's appearance, because with Long Bing's identity, it was not a problem for her to get the news here. Don't be impulsive. This was the first sentence Long Bing said to Charlotte. Charlotte said, Do you think I am an impulsive person? Long Bing said, I know you're not an impulsive person, but this is related to Xia Shui. I can't judge your state. This is also the reason why I flew over. Charlotte said, Little Shui is my only family in this world. No matter who wants to hurt her, I will not let them go. Long Bing said, I knew it. This time when Xia Shui came back, the people over there withdrew. After all, you are protecting her. They don't want to waste human resources, but they didn't expect such a thing to happen. I promise you that this will not happen again in the future. With Long Bing's promise, Charlotte also got a message, and that was that he was still very valuable to the 101 innings. Right, which side do you suspect that person is on? Long Bing asked. Charlotte said, I suspect it is the Gu family. Are you sure? Charlotte said, Although I am not 100% sure, I am at least 70% or 80% sure. The Gu family lost 3 people last time. Gu Dingshan lost face, and I am also an obstacle in Gu Kowu's eyes that he must get rid of. No one is more unscrupulous than the Gu family. It is normal for them to make a move on my sister. If it was the CIA, they would have made a move on me. There is also Anina, but they did not. Long Bing's expression was cold. Does he really think that the Gu family is one of the 4 great families of the Republic of China? If they don't court death, they won't die. If they do this, they won't be far from death. Xiao Lei smiled wryly. That's true, but the Gu clan is still a force to be reckoned with. It's a group of interests, and it's very difficult to touch them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have remained untouched until now. Even Sherboran couldn't help with the previous incident, and this was a living example of that. If Gu Kawu had not been impatient and set a trap to kill him and frame Hu Ho, Lima Manufacturing Company would not have lifted the production ban until now. Long Bing smiled faintly. Gu Dingshan is a tiger. Do you think it is so easy to kill a tiger? Anyway, don't act rashly during this time, and don't even think about taking revenge on the Gu family. If you do that, you will fall into the Gu family's trap. You are a smart person. You should be able to guess that the Gu family would love nothing more than for you to do that. Charlotte nodded. Considering the situation on your side, I have decided to bring Anina back to Jingdu tomorrow. Xia Shui will also come back with me. I will arrange for her to learn foreign languages and train in combat. She's your sister. She will have to face some dangerous situations in the future. She can't be so weak now, said Long Bing. You want to train her? Charlotte probed. Turn her into someone like you? Long Bing said, What's wrong with learning more skills? Charlotte said, You can train her, but I won't let her join the 101 innings. This is non-negotiable. Long Bing said, Do you think it is so easy to join the 101 innings? Even if I wanted to, she doesn't have the right. Charlotte was relieved. He only had one sister, Xia Shui. An elder brother was like a father. Xia Shui was like his own flesh and blood. He did not want her to join the 101 innings and live a life full of danger. By the way, let's talk about that thing, said Long Bing. I believe Anina has already mentioned it to you. Have you considered it? Charlotte knew she would bring it up. He said, Anina has indeed mentioned it to me. I have also considered it. Okay, but I have two conditions. Tell me. Longbing looked at Charlotte. Charlotte agreed. There was a hint of joy in her eyes. Charlotte said, the first condition is that Anina must return to my side. Longbing said, that's not a problem. She is determined to follow you. She won't go anywhere except here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked her to come and persuade you. Charlotte nodded. The second condition is that I have so much money to build the production line. I need a loan of at least 500 million yuan. The country will loan it to me without interest. 30% of each delivery will be used to repay the loan until the loan is fully repaid. Longbing was silent for a moment, then said, then how high of a quality can you guarantee? Charlotte said, if it's mass-produced, it definitely won't be as good as the one I'm modified for you, but it shouldn't be a problem to reach the most advanced standards in the world. Anina and I will work together. You know how capable we are. If we can't do it, then no one in China can. All right, I've actually already reached an agreement with Boss Sure on the first condition, so I can agree to it. As for the second condition, that's a loan of 500 million yuan. I have to go back and report it to Boss Sure and let him decide. Also, I'll give you a hint. This kind of production line can't be built here. It has to be built in the capital, said Longbing. Why? Charlotte was a little surprised. Longbing said, you should brush up on military knowledge. This is a coastal area. Other than a shipyard, which military factory would be built here? Once the war starts, the first thing the enemy will blow up will be your factory. This is a strategic consideration. You have to agree even if you don't want to. Charlotte shrugged. All right, you guys have the final say on where to build it, but you guys will pay for the land, so it can't be considered money. Longbing laughed. You're becoming more and more like a businessman. I've always been a businessman, okay? Charlotte said. Longbing said, let's go back. You go and convince Anina. She's a stubborn German. I promised her to stay here for 3 days. I'm taking her back to the capital tomorrow morning. I'm afraid she'll throw a tantrum. All right, I'll go convince her. Do you want to come and sit? No need. I have other things to take care of. Goodbye. Longbing turned and left. Xia Shui poked her head out of the car window. Brother, why did Sister Bing leave? Didn't you invite her to our house? Charlotte smiled bitterly and shook his head. You know her temper. Let's go home. All right, you go back to the capital with her tomorrow. You'll be safer with her. Yes, Xiaomei will also go back to the capital with you. Xia Shui laughed. All right, my sister-in-law is going back to the capital too. I can learn English and German from her. You little girl, what's sister-in-law? Isn't that the case? Do I have a sister-in-law who's destined to be my sister-in-law? Who is it? Tell me. Charlotte was speechless. Chapter 249. As the car drove into the gate of the community, Charlotte looked back at the business car parked on the side of the road. He saw the two people from 101 innings sitting in a car. An idea came to his mind. If it weren't for the people from 101 innings guarding here, would the killer come here to assassinate me? If he did that, how should I deal with it? There was always a sense of crisis in Charlotte's heart. He knew too little about the killer, which made him feel very passive. The house was very quiet, and the lights were not turned on. Anina seemed to be asleep. Xia Shui said, Brother, rest early. Charlotte said, You go to sleep. I want to sit alone for a while and think about things. Take me to sleep. Don't stay up too long. Xia Shui went into her room. Charlotte sat on the sofa for a few minutes, then found a piece of paper and a pencil. While recalling the killer's face, he drew the killer's appearance on it. However, he did not have professional training in sketching. He only learned some basic knowledge of art when he was in school. His drawing was not like the killer. The killer looked a bit like Zhang Zhun, a very cold man, but the face he drew was similar to Huangbo's. D*MN. With my level, if the police use my drawing to arrest people, Huangbo will probably be implicated, right? Looking at his own drawing, Charlotte couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Then he gave up. He also had an idea in his heart. That was, when he had time in the future, he must learn the skills of drawing. Charlotte threw his drawing into the trash can and then walked to his room. When he opened the door, a faint fragrance suddenly came to his face. It was the body fragrance of a woman. Then he saw the woman lying in the bed, Anina. Only then did Charlotte realize that his room was given to Anina. He should go back to his father, Xiaochang's room, to sleep. At this moment, he was a little hesitant. Should he go to bed with Anina? Or should he go to his father, Xiaochang's room? The former was, of course, the most tempting choice, but when this thought popped up, his waist inexplicably ached. But just as Charlotte was hesitating, Anina suddenly lifted the quilt and opened her eyes. A pair of beautiful blue eyes quietly stared at him, standing at the door. Anina was no longer wearing the funny pajamas for children. Instead, she was wearing a man's shirt. That shirt was obviously Charlotte's shirt, and it was the only piece of clothing she had on. There were only 2 buttons on the shirt, one below the chest and the other above the navel. Her plump and firm breasts stretched out the collar of her shirt, exposing 2/3 of them to the air. Her wavy skin was extremely fair and tender. Below the second button was a soft, flat belly with a little baby fat. The belly button was small and cute, like a little kid with a silly smile. Lying on her side, her beautiful legs pressed against her beautiful legs. The curves of her long legs and buttocks were full and tempting. The hem of the shirt was half covered and half covered on her thighs. If it was a little longer, the scenery would be gone. If it was a little shorter, it would be a catharsis. But it was neither too long nor too short. It gave people a feeling that it couldn't be covered, even if you wanted to. It was half covered, hazy, and deeply tempting. Charlotte suddenly felt that his throat was a little dry. Anina grinned. What are you still waiting for there? Yeah, what is he still waiting for? Anyway, I have to convince her to go back to Jingdu tomorrow. It's okay to do something else in the process of persuading her, right? With this thought, he didn't hesitate and strode toward Anina. Anina's shirt flew up, then it fluttered down and wrapped a mushroom-shaped bedside lamp. The next morning, Charlotte sent Anina and Xia Shui out of the community and then watched them board the business car. Brother, take care of yourself. Xia Shui stuck her head out of the window, and her eyes were full of worry. Charlotte nodded. Lei, I will miss you. Anina also stuck her head out of the window and blew a kiss to Charlotte. Charlotte smiled and subconsciously held his sore waist. What is the relationship between him and Anina? He actually thought about it several times in his heart, but he didn't have a clear answer. He didn't have the kind of unforgettable love for Anina that he had for Liang Xiao. Even if it was a mixture of affection and desire. It wasn't strong. Anina also knew about this, but it didn't seem to affect her. He also felt very relaxed and comfortable when he was with her. It didn't matter what kind of relationship they had. If she was a lover, then she was absolutely a perfect lover. Lover? Why did I think of this word? The word lover usually refers to a third party, right? Could it be that in my subconscious, I still treated Liang Xiao as my girlfriend or fiancée? Where is she now, and what is she doing? Suddenly thinking of Liang Xiao, Charlotte's heart was lost. Half an hour later, Charlotte drove to Lima Manufacturing Company. On the 3rd day of the new year, most of the workers were on vacation. There were only some workers who worked overtime in the factory. Charlotte walked around the workshop and comforted the workers who worked overtime. Then he returned to his office and took a pen and paper to draw the assassin's portrait. He actually considered asking Jiang Rui to come over and help him draw it. Jiang Rui was also good at this. But considering the current awkward relationship between him and Jiang Rui, he gave up. After a while, Qin Xiang appeared at the door of the office. She said as soon as she entered the door, I heard that Lu Sheng was stabbed. Who did it? Charlotte put down the pencil and handed a piece of A4 paper to Qin Xiang. Qin Xiang took it and looked at it. She was stunned for a moment and said in surprise, Zhao Binshan. Xiao Lei was also very surprised. Do I look like Zhao Binshan in the painting? Qin Xiang handed the portrait back to Charlotte with a wry smile. I was wrong. You drew Huang Bo. Charlotte was a little speechless. In fact, he felt that the painting was somewhat similar. This was a kind of progress. But judging from Qin Xiang's reaction, he was obviously laughing at his painting level. Why didn't you tell me such a big thing? Qin Xiang said with some dissatisfaction. Charlotte said, I wanted to draw it and show it to you. You know something about the Gu family. Maybe you can recognize the assassin. But now it seems that I failed. You are really... Qin Xiang looked very depressed. When did you become a painter? You should find a professional to help you with this kind of thing. Don't you know a policewoman? Jiang Rui, ask her for help. Charlotte shook his head. Forget it. I'll deal with this myself. She'll get into trouble if I get her involved. Maybe it will be very dangerous. Qin Xiang laughed. It's not easy for you to deal with the relationship between you two, right? You stinky men, don't you think I don't know? Charlotte looked at him with a strange look. Wasn't he a man? How could a man call another man a stinky man? Tell me, what do you want me to do? Charlotte said, I'll tell you my decision first. I've decided that starting from this month, your monthly salary will be increased to 200,000 yuan. Ah, Qin Xiang was tongue-tied. Charlotte said with a smile, if you think it's too much, I can reduce it a little. Qin Xiang rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Am I stupid? Is there anyone in this world who thinks their salary is too high? Then he laughed again. Thank you. My mother needs a lot of money for her illness. If you give me such a high salary, I can also make my mother live a better life. Charlotte said, why are you being so polite with me? What's mine will be yours, let alone a monthly salary of 200,000 yuan. As long as I become rich in the future, I will give you a monthly salary of 2 million yuan. F*CK, I'll remember this. Qin Xiang stared at Charlotte with her eyes shining. Charlotte smiled. Let's talk about the killer. I suspect that he is from a Gu family. Besides Dong Wu and Qin Shi, who else do you know of in the Gu family? The very powerful ones. Qin Xiang thought for a moment, but she shook her head. You know, I'm not from the Gu family. I just occasionally heard and saw some information about the Gu family when I was working for Huang Yihu. This time, the person who appeared was able to stab Lu Sheng and escape unscathed. I've never heard of such a powerful person. Charlotte frowned. What is that guy's identity in the Gu family? It's really a headache. Qin Xiang said, we are in the light, and he is in the dark. This is indeed a problem. We must find a way to lure him out, or we will be in a passive position. Lure him out? Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Your proposal gives me an idea. Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte and asked, what do you want to do? Charlotte said, his target is me, so I will give him a chance to attack me. We will hold a reception and invite celebrities from all walks of life in Haizhu City. Gu Kewu and Gu Qian will also be invited. On such an occasion, the killer will get a lot of opportunities. He will definitely show up. What if he doesn't show up? Then I'll dig out his identity from Gu Qian or Gu Kewu. Don't forget, I haven't used the techniques you taught me on anyone yet. This time, it's a good chance to test my skills. That's a good idea, Qin Xiang said. However, I don't think Gu Qian and Gu Kewu will attend the reception hosted by you. The killer will also guess that this is a trap and won't show up at all. Charlotte smiled. Of course, Gu Qian and Gu Kewu won't come to the reception I'm holding, but the Gu siblings will definitely go to the reception hosted by someone else. Qin Xiang seemed to think of someone. You mean, Charlotte had already taken out his mobile phone and dialed a number. Hello, Tianyin. Shintu Tianyin's voice came from the phone. It's me. What's up? Charlotte said, I want to ask you out for a cup of coffee. Are you free? Shintu Tianyin smiled. Of course I'm free. Where? Charlotte said, Yilai Xiang. That coffee shop is good. Wait for me. I'll pick you up and visit your uncle. Well, I'll wait for you at home. Shintu Tianyin looked very happy because this was the first time Charlotte had asked her out for coffee. After ending the call with Charlotte, Shintu Tianyin rushed to her room. Fu Mingmei, who was pushing Shinturun, asked curiously, Sister Tianyin, where are you going? I'm going to change clothes. Shintu Tianyin didn't even look back. Fu Mingmei smirked. That kid must be coming. Chapter 250. On the 10th day of the first lunar month, after a week of preparation, the party that Charlotte wanted finally began. The time was 8:00 at night, and the venue was Haizhu International Hotel. Not only were there celebrities from all walks of life in Haizhu, but there were also famous people from Hong Kong and Macau, as well as celebrities and socialites who were specially invited. These people were mainly there to add color to the party. It was not even 8:00, but the entrance of Haizhu International Hotel was already crowded with luxury cars and VIPs. Charlotte parked his car in the designated area and observe his surroundings before getting out of the car. A killer lurking around was not a joke. He did not want to be killed by a killer hiding in a corner with a sniper rifle as soon as he got out of the car. In order to prevent being killed, Charlotte had specially tested his telescopic ability in the past few days. His testing tool was an optical chart, and he started from 1,000 meters. At a distance of 1,000 meters, his left eye could clearly see all the letters on the chart. Then it was 2,000 meters. At 2,000 meters, he could not clearly see the letters on the first and second row from the back. Then it was 3,000 meters. At this distance, he could not clearly see the letters on the third and fourth row from the back. Then it was 4,000 meters. At this distance, he could not clearly see the letters on the fifth and sixth row from the back. In the end, he tried a longer distance, but after 4,000 meters, he could no longer see the entire vision chart, let alone the letters on it. He seemed to have done this test several times, and he also came to the conclusion that the effective range of his telescopic ability was 4,000 meters. This kind of telescopic ability had already surpassed the eyesight of all humans and was almost comparable to that of an eagle in the natural world. An eagle could clearly see its prey on the ground from a high altitude, but he could use his left eye to lock on a target 4 kilometers away. In this world, no one could develop a sniper rifle with an effective range of 4,000 meters. Therefore, as long as Charlotte observed his surroundings, he could avoid becoming the target of a sniper. Charlotte looked at the watch on his wrist and frowned slightly. "I've made an appointment. Why isn't Qin Xiang here yet?" At this time, a taxi stopped in front of the hotel, and a woman in a red dress got out of the car. The woman was tall and slender, and the wavy curves formed by her waist and buttocks were mature and attractive. She had long black hair and a beautiful face. The only flaw was that her breasts were relatively flat. If her breasts were a little bigger, she would definitely be a sexy stunner. The lady in the red dress looked left and right. Then, her line of sight stopped at Charlotte's side. She then waved at Charlotte. Charlotte was stunned for a moment and thought, "We don't know each other. Why would she wave at me?" Although he was curious, Charlotte still walked over. But before he got close, he found out who the girl in red was. It was Qin Xiang. Charlotte was sweating profusely. "Qin Xiang, are you a man or a woman?" Qin Xiang chuckled. "Do you have to distinguish whether it's a man or a woman?" Out of curiosity, Charlotte suppressed the guilt in his heart and quietly moved his left eye to the space between Qin Xiang's legs. A second later, he was shocked. Qin Xiang was someone who needed to go to the men's room. He just looked too much like a woman. After wearing a wig, almost no one would think that he was a man. "Don't worry. I don't want to be regarded as a love rival by Tianyin. When we go in later, I'll do my thing and you do yours. We must find that killer tonight," Qin Xiang said. Charlotte nodded. "Let's go in." At the entrance of the lobby, Charlotte showed the invitation and walked in with Qin Xiang. Although he was the organizer of this banquet, he was attending it as a guest. As the host, Tianyin, who was standing in the lobby to welcome the guests, saw Charlotte and Qin Xiang, who had just walked in. Her eyes then stopped on Qin Xiang. Obviously, her first reaction was the same as Charlotte's. She made a mistake and thought that Qin Xiang was a beautiful woman. "See, she has already regarded me as a love rival. Forget it. Let's separate in advance." Qin Xiang swayed her small waist and walked away. Charlotte shook his head with a bitter smile and walked toward Tianyin. From Tianyin's strange eyes, he seemed to have guessed what her first sentence was. "Who is that woman?" Sure enough, Tianyin's first sentence was exactly the same as he had guessed. Charlotte moved closer to Tianyin's ear and whispered, "My company's supermarket supervisor, Qin Xiang. You've met him before. He's actually a man." "Ah." Tianyin's eyes became even more strange. "If..." Charlotte was stunned for a moment and said awkwardly, "Don't think too much. I'm normal. I brought him here to help me." Tianyin pursed her lips and smiled. "I'm joking with you. You go in first. I'll find you later." Although she knew what Charlotte wanted to do, the people she had invited were all famous people, so she had to greet them in person. Tianyin. Gukuwu walked in, holding a bouquet of roses in his hand. Gukuwu was followed by two women, Gu Qian and Dong Qinghua. Before Charlotte could leave, Dong Qinghua looked straight at Charlotte, her eyes full of hatred. Charlotte was the enemy who killed her father. If there were only her and Charlotte here, she would not hesitate to pounce on Charlotte. Even if she could not win, she would bite off a piece of his flesh. Tianyin, you're so beautiful. Gu Kewu held the bouquet of roses in both hands and handed it to Shinta Tianyin. He had a gentle and humble smile on his face. Please accept my most sincere apology. How many women could refuse such a romantic apology? Shinta Tianyin glanced at Charlotte from the corner of her eye. She seemed to be observing Charlotte's reaction. Charlotte was very calm. He only looked at Gu Kewu and Gu Qian indifferently. With Shinta Tianyin's personality, she would definitely not accept Gu Kewu's roses. However, she immediately thought of the reason why Xia Lei asked her to help organize this wine party. In the end, she still revealed a trace of smile. She extended her hand and received the roses that Gu Kewu handed to her. Kewu, Qian, you two go in and take a seat first. I'll come back to greet you two later. Gu Qian smiled and said, Sister Tianyin, we haven't chatted together for a long time. You must come find me later. We'll have a good chat. Shinta Tianyin only nodded her head lightly and handed the rose in her hand to Fu Mingmei, who was beside her. Fu Mingmei wanted to throw the rose away, but there was no trash can beside her. Gu Kewu walked towards Charlotte with a friendly smile on his face. Mr. Xia, we meet again. Charlotte also smiled. That's right. Haizhu is not a big place. There will be many opportunities for us to meet in the future. Is that so? I don't think there will be many chances. A sneer hung on the corner of Gu Kewu's mouth. His meaning was clear. You don't have long to live. How many more chances do you have to meet? Charlotte's left eye moved slightly and quickly swept across Gu Kewu's body. Gu Kewu didn't have any weapons on him. He only had a wallet and a cell phone. His gaze then shifted to Gu Qian's body. The red evening gown on Gu Qian's body instantly disappeared. Although they were mortal enemies, from a purely male point of view, Gu Qian's figure was really hot. Moreover, the vegetation in a certain area was so dense that it was exaggerated. If one didn't look, one wouldn't know. Gu Qian was very clean. Apart from her red evening gown and a blue bra, there was nothing else on her. Her belongings were all in her handbag. There was a mobile phone, a wallet, and a few makeup items such as lipstick, mirror, and eyebrow pencil. It was a messy feeling. Finally, Charlotte's gaze shifted to Dong Qinghua's body. Her figure could only be described as sturdy. Her legs were round and her waist was thick. Her chest and buttocks were big enough, but there was no sense of beauty in her curves. Contrary to Gu Qian's situation, she was actually a barren woman. She had a cell phone, a wallet, a military knife, 2 throwing knives, and 2 tiny electronic devices that were suspected to be bugs and locators. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. With a bug and a locator, who does she want to eavesdrop on? Who does she want to follow? Just as Charlotte was deep in thought, Gu Qian brushed past him. Brother, let's go. I feel disgusted just by looking at some people. Shinta Tianyin immediately frowned. No matter who insulted Charlotte, she would not be happy in her heart. Gu Kewu glared at Gu Qian, then smiled at Charlotte. I'm sorry, my sister is definitely not talking about you. Mr. Xia, there's indeed some misunderstanding between us, but that's just a misunderstanding. I've been sorting out what happened between us recently, and I realize that I've also done a lot of things wrong, and I hope you can forgive me. Charlotte smiled. It's fine. Even if Miss Qian says it to me, it's fine. That's good. Gu Kewu said gently. Let's have a drink or 2 later and have a good chat. There's no conflict that can't be resolved. Charlotte was also very polite. Thank you, I think so too. After saying that, he extended a hand towards Gu Kewu. Gu Kewu was slightly stunned, but he still reached out and shook hands with Charlotte. But this time, Charlotte seemed to be especially enthusiastic. Not only did he shake hands, he suddenly leaned over and gave him a hug. Charlotte said in Gu Kewu's ear, Stop acting. I'm warning you for the last time. You can touch me, but if you touch my sister, you'll die. Gu Kewu laughed. Really? Then I want to see who will die. Charlotte let go of Gu Kewu. The moment he separated from Gu Kawu, he put his left hand into his trouser pocket. Gu Kawu grinned at Shinda Tianyin. Tianyin, see you later. Shinda Tianyin resisted the feeling of nausea, smiled and nodded. Gu Qian, Gu Kawu, and Dong Qinwei entered the reception hall. Fu Mingmei raised her hand and threw the rose in her hand to a hotel waiter, saying loudly, "Throw it in the trash can." Shinta Tianyin still wanted to say something to Charlotte, but Charlotte walked in the direction of the bathroom. Chapter 251. Charlotte entered the bathroom and took out a phone from his pocket. It was Gu Kawu's phone. This was Charlotte's first time as a thief, and it went smoothly. Qin Xiang once said that as long as Charlotte was willing to learn his skills and become a thief, then Charlotte would definitely become a top master in the industry. The reason was simple. Charlotte had an advantage that others did not have, and that was the ability of his left eye. Charlotte woke up Gu Kawu's phone. A screen lock appeared on the screen. It was the kind of screen lock that was connected in circles. This did not stop him. He activated the microvision ability of his left eye, and a Z shape suddenly appeared on the seemingly smooth screen. Charlotte used his finger to draw a Z shape on the screen, and the screen lock was immediately unlocked. There were many contacts stored in the phone, at least 100. Charlotte just stared at the screen, and at the same time, he slowly slid the screen bar, letting his left eye remember all the contacts. Some of these contacts were government officials, some were big shots in the business world, some were people from the Gu family, and some of the higher-ups of the North Group. 2 minutes later, Charlotte closed his eyes, and the names that he had photographed from the contacts suddenly appeared in his mind. Government officials and big shots in the business world certainly did not need to be considered, and people from a North Group could also be excluded. This was because things like kidnapping and assassination, Gu Dingshan and Gu Kawu would definitely not let people from the North Group do it. Then, the only people left were people from the Gu family. One by one, the names of the Gu family appeared in Charlotte's mind, and soon, a name aroused Charlotte's suspicion. The name was Danny. Charlotte thought to himself, the contacts in this phone are all stored separately. How could this Danny appear in the Gu family's column? The name sounds like a foreigner. It can't be a relative of the Gu family, right? After thinking for a moment, Charlotte used Gu Kawu's phone to call Danny's number. Do. On the 6th ring, someone answered, and then a man's voice came, I'm already here. This was the standard accent of a Chinese person. Charlotte was stunned for a moment. Then he answered, okay. Then he hung up the phone. Under such circumstances, he obviously couldn't speak. He couldn't imitate Gu Kawu's voice, and he would be exposed the moment he spoke. However, he didn't need to ask Danny. He also got the information he wanted. That was, this Danny was the killer who tried to kidnap Xia Shui and almost assassinate Lu Sheng. First of all, this Danny was defined as family in Gu Kawu's phone, which meant that this Danny was a core figure in the Gu family. Secondly, although Danny only said, I'm already here, it was this sentence that exposed his identity. The purpose of this cocktail party was to create an opportunity for Gu Kawu to kill him and lure the killer to show himself. Danny's I'm already here was a confession. Charlotte suddenly thought of a movie, Danny Wolfdog, starring Jet Li. He secretly said in his heart. It turns out that this is the origin of the name. In the movie Danny Wolfdog, Jet Li is almost a human-shaped wolfdog. He will attack whoever his master asks him to attack. Danny of the Gu family is probably such an existence, right? After figuring out the identity of the killer, Charlotte quickly browsed the text messages and emails in Gu Kawu's mobile phone. He didn't deliberately remember anything, but as long as he saw it, he wouldn't forget it. A few minutes later, Charlotte came out of the bathroom. A woman in red was touching up her lipstick in front of the mirror in the sink. Charlotte walked over and whispered, the killer is here. Be careful. How do you know? Qin Xiang didn't look back. She just looked at Charlotte in the mirror. Charlotte said, I stole Gu Kawu's mobile phone and called that guy. It's almost confirmed. That guy is called Danny, and he's a very dangerous person. I think you're a very dangerous person. Qin Xiang pursed her lips and smiled. Do you want me to return the phone? In the left pocket, Charlotte put Gukawu's mobile phone on the sink and then turned to leave. Back in the reception hall, Charlotte soon saw Gukawu talking to Shinda Tianyin. Qin Xiang walked past Charlotte and went straight to Gukawu and Shinda Tianyin. When she walked to Gukawu, Qin Xiang's foot suddenly turned and one of her high heels fell to the ground. She also lost her balance and bumped into Gukawu. Gukawu frowned and looked at Qin Xiang. Qin Xiang said in a sharp voice, "Sir, I'm sorry." "Ouch, my foot." Gukawu pretended to be concerned. "Miss, are you okay?" "It's okay. I'm really sorry." Qin Xiang put on the high heels that fell to the ground and limped away. Gukawu didn't look at Qin Xiang. He quickly found another topic to talk to Shinta Tianyin. Charlotte smiled. When Qin Xiang bumped into Gukawu, he had already seen Qin Xiang put his mobile phone into the left pocket of Gukawu's suit. Charlotte walked over to Shinta Tianyin and Gukawu. His eyes quickly swept across the reception hall, looking for Danny's killer. Although he hadn't officially met him, he knew that the young man who secretly took pictures of him and Shinta Tianyin in Jingshan Park on the first day of the first lunar month was Danny. As long as that Danny appeared, he would be able to recognize him. Danny said on the phone that he had arrived, but Charlotte didn't find him in the reception hall. Seeing Charlotte come over, Shinta Tianyin's mouth suddenly showed a sweet smile. "Where did you go just now? I was looking for you everywhere." Charlotte said, "I went to the bathroom." Gukawu's face suddenly became gloomy. He had just tried hard to please Shinta Tianyin, but Shinta Tianyin didn't even smile. When Charlotte came, he didn't say anything, but Shinta Tianyin smiled. Gukawu really couldn't understand. His assets were hundreds of times more than Charlotte's, and his social status was also far higher than Charlotte's. Moreover, he was also a handsome guy with a good face and a good figure. But why would Shinta Tianyin like Charlotte, a smelly brat who moved bricks on a construction site? "Lei, come with me. I'll introduce you to some friends." Shinta Tianyin took Charlotte's arm, very naturally and very affectionately. Charlotte said with a smile, "Mr. Gu, let's talk later. Don't forget that you said you would drink a few cups with me." Gukawu's eyes were about to spurt out fire, but in front of Shinta Tianyin, he still squeezed out a trace of a reluctant smile. "Okay, see you later." Shinta Tianyin took Charlotte's arm and took him to a few people who were speaking in Cantonese. She first greeted them and then introduced them to Charlotte one by one. "This is Mr. Li Mingji of Hong Kong's Changha Group." Charlotte stretched out his hands to shake hands with them and then introduced himself. "This is Mr. He Jiaying, the boss of Macau's New Century Casino." Charlotte stretched out his hands again and said hello. The people that Shinta Tianyin introduced to him were all famous business tycoons. Usually, he didn't even have the opportunity to meet them, let alone know them. With his current status, it was obviously unrealistic to make friends with these business tycoons, but it was always good to know them. In the eyes of these business tycoons, Charlotte was just a nobody. If it was in normal times, they would not even be interested in looking at him. However, this was introduced by Shinta Tianyin, and Shinta Tianyin was holding his arm. This was actually a very obvious hint. Shinta Tianyin's boyfriend, who could not give him face. In fact, this was also what Shinta Tianyin wanted. Although this banquet was held by Charlotte, she did not want to hold a simple banquet. She invited the most dignified people she could invite. Whether Charlotte was willing or not, she wanted to give a hint at this banquet that she, Shinta Tianyin, was already taken. In this way, Charlotte, a guy with low EQ, would probably understand and do what a man should do, take the initiative to pursue her. There was another purpose, and that was to take this opportunity to make those men who had ideas about her give up. It was not scheming, but a woman fighting for the happiness she wanted. What she did was actually the same as a man giving flowers to a woman and asking a woman to watch a movie. However, Charlotte's mind was not on his emotional entanglement with Shinta Tianyin. His nerves were tense all the time. Even when he was meeting with Shinta Tianyin and those tycoons, he was observing the whole banquet hall from the corner of his eyes, looking for Danny. Just when Shinta Tianyin was talking with several business tycoons, Charlotte's eyes moved to Gukawu. At this time, Gukawu took out his mobile phone and answered a call. Charlotte's eyes were locked on Gukawu's lips, and he interpreted Gu Kawu's words with his lips. Dad, I am in the hall. You are here? Gu Kawu faced the entrance of the hall and raised his hand high. Charlotte's eyes moved to the entrance of the banquet hall, and he saw a man in his 50s, surrounded by 2 bodyguards, walk into the banquet hall. As the head of the North Group, Gu Dingshan's photos were everywhere on the internet. Charlotte didn't know how many times he had seen him. So, although it was the first time they met, he recognized at a glance that the man who had just walked in was Gu Dingshan. Gu Dingshan didn't look like a gangster at all. He was of medium build, not fat nor thin, and he wore black-rimmed glasses. He looked very gentle, like a Chinese teacher in a school. Charlotte's eyes moved to the 2 bodyguards accompanying Gu Dingshan. Not one of them was Danny, which surprised him a little. Dad. Gu Kawu very respectfully greeted Gu Dingshan. Gu Dingshan just faintly nodded, and then his gaze shifted to Shinda Tianyin and the other big shots of the business world. His eyes finally stopped on Charlotte. The 2 men's eyes collided in the air, but there was no sound. Gu Dingshan walked toward them. Gu Kawu was slightly stunned, and then he followed behind Gu Dingshan. Chapter 252. Shinda Tianyin also saw Gu Dingshan. She suddenly frowned, but only for a second. A second later, she smiled and took the initiative to greet Gu Dingshan. Uncle Gu, when did you come back? Why didn't you call me? I could have welcomed you. Gu Dingshan laughed and said, Tianyin, I came uninvited. I didn't make you unhappy, did I? Shinda Tianyin said, Uncle Gu, you must be joking. You are a distinguished guest. I'm very happy that you can come. Gu Dingshan shook hands with Li Mingji and said, Old Li, when will you come to my golf course and play a round of golf with me? I'm not convinced that I lost to you last time. Next time, I will definitely beat you. Li Mingji smiled and said, No problem, but I will beat you next time. Gu Dingshan shook hands with He Jiaying and said, Old He, after the reception, I will go to Macau with you. I want to go to your casino to play a few rounds. He Jiaying said with a smile, If you want to come, I will accompany you. Gu Dingshan shook his head and said, I won't play with you. You are the gambling king. If I play with you, I will only lose. He Jiaying just smiled. Gu Dingshan also greeted several other big shots from the mainland. He was also a big shot in the business world, and he was also a big shot in the underworld. His reputation was actually much higher than that of Shinda Tianyin. It was normal for these big shots from Hong Kong, Macau, and the mainland to be familiar with him. Their social circle was the top social circle, and Charlotte was not even qualified to join it. Gu Dingshan greeted everyone except Charlotte. He didn't even look at him. Charlotte didn't care. They were mortal enemies. He didn't expect Gu Dingshan to shake hands and talk with him. He just felt a little strange in his heart. Gu Dingshan came uninvited. Did he come here just to give me a cold shoulder? If that's the case, then he's too bored. Gu Kawu looked at Charlotte from time to time. His eyes were cold, and there was a sneer on the corner of his mouth. It seemed to be saying, Do you think you're qualified to deal with these big shots? Let's go sit. Shinda Tianyin once again took Charlotte's hand. Charlotte was obviously ignored and ignored. She didn't want him to feel uncomfortable. Charlotte smiled. Sure. Gu Dingshan suddenly turned around and looked straight at Charlotte and Shinda Tianyin. Tianyin, is this gentleman your friend? Why don't you introduce him? Shinda Tianyin said, My boyfriend, Charlotte. She said it very naturally, without the slightest feeling of pretentiousness. However, Charlotte felt a little embarrassed. Last time, he pretended to be Shinda Tianyin's boyfriend and caused a lot of trouble. Now, Shinda Tianyin publicly announced that he was her boyfriend. Not to mention other troubles, he would definitely be on the entertainment and financial pages tomorrow. And Shinda Tianyin's fans and pursuers would certainly criticize him from head to toe. However, he didn't dislike what Shinda Tianyin said. He was already familiar with the feeling of pretending to be her boyfriend. Your boyfriend? Haha, I always thought that our family's Kawu is your boyfriend. Gu Dingshan said with a smile. Shinda Tianyin's brows suddenly wrinkled. Uncle Gu, I don't like this kind of joke. He Jiaying said with a smile. Tianyin, old Gu is just joking with you. Don't mind it. You have tens of billions in assets. I don't know how many men have ideas on you. You have to keep your eyes open. Don't be fooled by some poor boy. If you want to fall in love, you have to find a man who matches your family. He Jiaying obviously had a good relationship with Gu Dingshan and seemed to know something about the situation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have helped Gu Dingshan at this time. The poor boy he mentioned was obviously referring to Xiao Lei. In the eyes of a business tycoon like him, Xiao Lei, who only had 200 to 300 million in assets, was indeed a poor boy who could not be shown in public. Shintu Tianin's face turned even uglier. Uncle He, what do you mean? My boyfriend has his own company. He won't pursue any woman for money, including me. Then he must be rich. Do you dare to play with me? He Jiaying had a smile on her face as she looked at Xiao Lei provocatively. Gu Kuwu seemed to have finally found a chance to mock Xiao Lei. He followed up and said, Uncle He, don't make things difficult for Mr. Xia. He's just a small factory that processes mechanical parts for people. He was even sealed by the industry and commerce a while ago. Because of quality problems, he only started working recently. Does he have the money to bet with you? If your hands are itchy, I'll play with you. No money? Tianin's boyfriend has no money? Gu Dingshan said with a smile. 100 or 200 million is just pocket money in Tianin's eyes. Will Tianin not give her boyfriend money to play cards? Right, Tianin, you won't spoil everyone's fun, will you? Shintu Tianin's face turned red with anger. She was very clear about He Jiaying's talent and strength in gambling. Charlotte gambling with him was simply giving him money. In addition, Gu Dingshan seemed to have colluded with him long ago. If Charlotte really took money to gamble with him, it would really be like a sheep walking into a tiger's mouth and walking into a trap. But if he didn't agree, Charlotte would lose face again. This made her very embarrassed. Charlotte finally understood. Since ancient times, gangsters and drugs had been a family. Gu Dingshan started from the underworld, so it was inevitable that he would be involved in prostitution, gambling, and drugs. Haiju was close to Macau. How could they not know each other? Now, these two people were working together to harm him. Their intentions were sinister. On the surface, this seemed to be a gamble for fun, but it was not as simple as it seemed. With the gambling king's help and Gu Dingshan's cooperation, Charlotte's loss was a sure thing. It was common for these people to win or lose 100 or 200 million in gambling, and Charlotte's total net worth was so little. Once he lost, his just started career would be ruined, and he would disappoint Shinta Tianin. Next, would Gu Dingshan have any trouble dealing with a person who had lost everything? Let's go. Shinta Tianin wanted to take Charlotte away. Gu Kuwu smiled and said, Go home and wash your clothes and cook. It's going to be a housewife. Why are you pretending to be a successful man? Charlotte did not move. He said to Shinta Tianin, Tianin, I'll play with them. You. Shinta Tianin suddenly froze on the spot. She did not expect Charlotte to make such a decision. Charlotte said, It's just playing. It's nothing. Since Boss Gu and Boss here are in such a good mood, how can I spoil their fun? Shinta Tianin moved closer to Charlotte's ear and said angrily, Can't you see? These two people are playing a game. This is what they do. If you gamble with them, you will lose miserably. There are many people in Macau who want to jump off a building every day. Many of them are like this. They have their own small companies, their families and careers are very successful, but they lose everything overnight. Do you want to be like them? Charlotte just smiled and said, Don't worry, I have a sense of propriety. Why are you so stubborn? Shinta Tianin was angry. Can you wake up? Charlotte said faintly, I am very sober. You don't have to worry about this. You. Shinta Tianin angrily released Charlotte's arm. Gu Dingshan laughed and said, This is a real man. Tianin, find a place for us. We will play with Mr. Xia. Shinta Tianin originally wanted to refuse, but in the blink of an eye, she thought about how it would be even worse if Xia Lei followed them to another place. After weighing the pros and cons, she made a decision in the end. All right, follow me. As soon as she finished speaking, she rolled her eyes at Xiao Lei. Charlotte pretended not to see it. In Charlotte's eyes, Gu Dingshan and He Jiaying could become naked primitive people at any time. He could see all the cards. Would he be afraid to gamble with these two people? It wasn't that he didn't know Shinta Tianin's good intentions, but if he explained too much to her, the two old foxes, Gu Dingshan and He Jiaying, might see through the flaws. It wouldn't be fun anymore. Under the leadership of Shinta Tianyin, several business tycoons came to a VIP chess room in the hotel. The chess room was very complete with mahjong machines, dice, pai gao, and so on. Charlotte looked around the VIP chess room and said, "I don't have so much cash. The money is in my account. How do you want to gamble?" He Jiaying said with a smile, "Mr. Xia, have you forgotten what I do? I am the bank. How much money do you have in your account? I can get it all out for you in half an hour." Charlotte said, "I have about 150 million in my account. How much do you want to play? 150 million? I can play 2 games. He Jiaying's tone was very big. He waved his hand, and one of his attendants followed him to Charlotte's side. "Mr. Xia, I will help you get the money out of your account. 150 million. I suggest you exchange it for 500 euros. That way, it will be easier to operate," He Jiaying's attendant said. Charlotte nodded. "Well, what do you want to do?" He Jiaying's attendant took out a calculator and started typing as he said, 150 million yuan can be exchanged for 21,180,000 euros, which is 42,360 euro notes of 500 denominations. Each note weighs 1 grams, which adds up to 192 kilograms. "Mr. Xia, do you think it's troublesome?" Charlotte said lightly, "It's not troublesome, but I should get it from you, right? I have to see where the money is. Of course we have our rules." He Jiaying's attendant also took out his cell phone and made a phone call. He only said one sentence on the phone, "Bring the money." Gu Dingshan also made a phone call. He only said one sentence on the phone, "Bring the money." Shinta Tianyin pulled Charlotte aside and whispered, "What's wrong with you today? Didn't you see? They've even prepared the money. This is clearly a trap." Charlotte said with a smile, "It's nothing. I'm just playing. I rarely play cards. I want to play." "You." Shinta Tianyin was infuriated. "You've really been possessed. Your money is for your business, and your workers are waiting for you to pay them. Have you ever thought about what would happen if you lost all your money? What about your company?" Charlotte said, "How do you know I will lose before it starts? Don't always say that you will lose. It will affect your luck." When Gu Dingshan and He Jiaying heard Charlotte's words, they looked at each other and smiled. On the other hand, Shinta Tianyin sighed in disappointment. "Go ahead and gamble. If you lose, I won't lend you any money." Charlotte just smiled bitterly. Chapter 253. In less than half an hour, Charlotte's entire fortune was packed into a large suitcase. 21,180,000 euros. They had just filled the large suitcase. Gu Dingshan and He Jiaying were obviously not as poor as Charlotte. Gu Dingshan's people sent him 3 such large suitcases, while He Jiaying received 4 such large suitcases, all of which were filled with brand new 500 denomination euros. It was not difficult to guess the gambling stake of the 2 people. Gu Dingshan had 60 million euros, and He Jiaying had 80 million euros. They brought so much money, obviously not just for your money. If you lose, don't bet with them on your company, and don't borrow money from that He Jiaying. Shinta Tianyin began to speak in Charlotte's ear. Since she could not stop Charlotte from participating in this gambling, she could only try to avoid the worst situation from happening. Charlotte gently nodded, still did not say anything. What Shinta Tianyin saw? How could he not see? He just did not care. The gambling stake had arrived, and the gambling was about to begin. In fact, only Gu Dingshan, He Jiaying, and Charlotte were gambling. Li Minji and several other business bigwigs just watched and did not participate. In the entire room, it seemed that only Charlotte did not see that this was a trap, but everyone else did. How could Shinta Tianyin choose such a man as a boyfriend? Someone whispered, "Such a man. It would be strange if he did not go for Shinta Tianyin's money." Someone whispered, "Just wait and see. He will lose everything, and then Shinta Tianyin will see his character and leave him. This Charlotte is really a fool. He has a girlfriend like Shinta Tianyin, and he is not satisfied. He actually wants to gamble with He Jiaying, a gambling king. AI, I really can't figure out what is going on in his head. Can't you see? Gu Kawu had always been pursuing Shinta Tianyin. Gu Dingshan had personally come out this time to destroy Charlotte and facilitate Gu Kawu and Shinda Tianin being together. That Charlotte obviously joined in for the sake of his reputation. I can only say that he's too young and too stupid. Sigh, let's not talk about the Gu family's matters, although the voices of these people were very soft. But when it fell into the ears of the brother and sister Gu Kawu and Gu Kyun, the brother and sister could not help but smile. The Gu siblings did not care about what others said about them. The people of the Gu family only cared about the results. They did not care about the methods or the process, and they did not care about the opinions of others. In the eyes of Gu Kawu and Gu Kyun, Charlotte seemed to be a person who had lost everything he had. On the gambling table, He Jiang spat out a mouthful of cigar smoke and said slowly, "Mr. Xia, can we begin?" "Yes," Charlotte said lightly. "What do we play?" He Jiang said with a smile, "I am a senior in this regard. I don't want people in the underworld to say that I bully the younger generation. So how play is up to you." "That's good." Charlotte was not polite. He said, "Let's play dice. There's no need to be so troublesome. We'll each sit 3 times. What do you think?" He Jiang and Gu Dingshan looked at each other. Although they did not speak, they had a look to ask for each other's opinion. "Well, then I'll be the banker first." He Jiang was proficient in all kinds of gambling tools, and dice was naturally one of them. A hotel waitress brought a dice cup. It was a large, thick, and heavy mahogany dice cup. He Jiang took the dice cup, opened it, and looked at the dice inside. Then, she closed the cup and prepared to shake the dice. Charlotte said, "No hurry. I'll tell you the rules first." He Jiang suddenly frowned. "Mr. Xia, He Jiang, have gambled all my life. Do you think I don't know the rules?" Charlotte said, "All rules are set by people. We will take turns to be the banker today. Everyone will shake the dice and place a bet. The rule I mentioned is also very fair. No matter who shakes the dice, they can't open the cup themselves. We will let Miss Tianin open the cup." This rule was very fair. The purpose was to make it impossible for the banker to play tricks when opening the cup. If even such a rule was refused, then the person who refused would inevitably be suspected of cheating. Gu Dingshan looked at Shinda Tianin and said, "Tianin, are you willing?" Shinda Tianin wanted to refuse, but after looking at Charlotte, she held back her disappointment and nodded. "Well, I'll open the cup for you. I have no problem with that." He Jiang didn't put Charlotte in his eyes. He didn't believe that Shinda Tianin, who never played cards, had the ability to cheat. He grabbed a solid wood dice cup and shook it. Xia Lei's left eye twitched slightly, and the dice in the dice cup entered his left eye's field of vision. He Jiang's every move was also under his control. He Jiang's movements were very fast, but in his eyes, they were ridiculously slow. About 10 seconds later, He Jiang put the dice cup on the gambling table. Then, he pushed the dice cup in front of Shinda Tianin and said, "Place your bet." Gu Dingshan said, €1,000,000 small. He picked up a large bundle of euros and pushed it into the betting area. There were 20 bundles of coins in a bundle, which was exactly €1,000,000. He Jiang took a puff of his cigar and looked at Charlotte. "Mr. Xia, Mr. Gu probably doesn't want to win my money. You don't have to be polite. I'll pay whatever you bet." "Really? Then I won't be polite." Charlotte pushed all the money in front of him out. "Bet all big." The audience was in an uproar. "Is this kid crazy? He just bet all of his assets?" Someone said in surprise. "Doesn't he know who he is facing? Isn't that the gambling king of Macau?" Someone sighed. "It seems that it won't be long before this kid jumps off a building." Someone sighed. 20 million euros was nothing to Shinda Tianin, but this was all of Charlotte's savings. She was more nervous than Charlotte. Before she opened the cup, her hands were already trembling slightly. "Mr. Xia, I will give you a chance to change the bet. You can also bet on another result." He Jiang said. He looked relaxed, but his heart was beating faster. He was actually very nervous. Charlotte said lightly, "Once you've made your bet, this is the rule of the casino for thousands of years. Even if I lose, I won't change the bet." Tianin, open the cup. Shinta Tianin looked at Charlotte, and the disappointment in her eyes became heavier. She felt that Xia Lei seemed to have changed into a different person. He had changed from a man full of merits to a gambler who loved gambling as much as his life. Charlotte smiled at Shinta Tianin. Open the cup. If I lose, I will leave immediately. This sentence seemed to make Shinta Tianin feel relieved. She steadied her hand and opened the dice cup. There were 3 dice lying in the dice cup. 4, 5, 6 big. At this moment, He Jiaying and Gu Dingshan's faces turned green. My God, I have never seen such a gamble. Someone said, this kid is really brave. Someone said, there was another discussion in the room, but no one said that Charlotte was an idiot or a fool. Shinta Tianin finally heaved a sigh of relief, but that was all. Xiaolei had won 21 million euros in one go, but she didn't feel happy at all. But if Charlotte had made so much money from the business world, she would have been very happy. He Jiaying had to pay 21 million euros to Xiaolei. He felt very pained inside, but he pretended to be heroic on the surface. He chuckled and said, not bad. You have guts. I admire you very much. Let's play again. This time, Gu Dingshan still only bet 1 million euros. He still bet small. He Jiaying said, Mr. Xia, you should know when to stop. I think you will also bet 1 million euros big this time, right? This was a provocation. He was provoking Xiaolei, making him place a huge bet. There was another purpose. He was also tempting Charlotte to bet small. He Jiaying had gambled all his life. There was a reason why gamblers gave him the title of King of Gamblers. He was familiar with the psychology of gamblers. They were very suspicious. If you said big, they would bet small. This kind of trick was useful for ordinary gamblers, but it was useless for Charlotte because he was not affected at all. He only believed in his eyes. Charlotte pushed all the money in front of him to the betting area. 42 million euros, big. He Jiaying could no longer maintain the relaxed look he had just put on. His face was already gloomy. Shinta Tianin opened the dice cup again. This time it was 5, 5, 5, still big. Everyone's eyes focused on Charlotte. This time, no one talked anymore. Their eyes were full of surprise. The Gu father and son were also dumbfounded. The 3 members of the Gu family had originally dug a pit for Xiaolei to jump into, and Xiaolei had jumped in. But his F***king jumping ability was heaven-defying. He had actually used Qin Gong to float in the pit. What the hell was going on? He Jiaying bit the bullet and paid 42 million euros to Charlotte. Charlotte's money could no longer be piled on the table. The hotel staff piled most of the money on the ground beside him. The volume of the money was several times his size. It looked very spectacular. He Jiaying brought 80 million euros and paid Charlotte twice. Plus the 2 million euros he won from Gu Dingshan. He only had 19 million euros left. If Charlotte bet all of it, he would have no money to pay. Charlotte said, Mr. He, it seems that you don't have enough money. You know how I play. I like excitement, so I bet all of it every time. I have 84 million euros now. If you lose, what will you pay me? Charlotte's current money needed He Jiaying and Gu Dingshan's money to be enough for him to play. Just now, He Jiaying had ridiculed Charlotte. Now, it was his turn to be ridiculed. He Jiaying, have never reneged on a gambling table. He Jiaying looked at Gu Dingshan and said, Old Gu, you don't want to bet this time. Lend me your money. I'll bet with him. Okay. Gu Dingshan did not hesitate and agreed. He Jiaying was invited by him to set up a trap for Charlotte. Now He Jiaying had lost 60 million euros. If he did not agree, He Jiaying would definitely turn against him. He Jiaying pushed the dice cup in front of Charlotte and said coldly, This time, you are the banker. Okay. Charlotte grabbed the dice cup and shook it. He Jiaying stared at the movements of Charlotte's hands. His ears also trembled slightly. When gambling reached a certain level, the number could be heard just by the rolling sound of the dice. From this, it was easy to judge the size of the dice. He Jiaying was known as the king of gamblers. This kind of ability was not a problem at all. Charlotte gently shook the dice cup while looking at He Jiaying on the opposite side. In his left eye, He Jiaying's slightest movement could not escape his sight. After shaking the dice cup for about 10 seconds, Charlotte put the dice cup on the table. His left eye instantly penetrated the dice cup and saw the number inside. The 3 dice in the dice cup were 1, 3, 4, and 1 was small. Seeing the number, his eyes moved to He Jiaying's ears again. At this time, He Jiaying's ears did not move. "Place your bets," Xiao Lei said calmly. 77 million, all bet small," He Jiaying said, and then pushed the money in front of him on the table. But at the moment when He Jiaying pushed the money, Charlotte's right index finger gently flicked on the dice cup. One of the dice inside suddenly bounced and flipped over, changing from 1 to 6. Charlotte's hand speed was extremely fast. He also used the internal energy of Wing Chun boxing and the skill of hitting the cow through the mountain. Outsiders could not see it, nor could they hear the sound. In fact, even if there was a slight sound, it was covered by the sound of He Jiaying pushing the money. "Open," He Jiaying said to Shinta Tianin. Shinta Tianin moved over and reached out to open the dice cup. The dice in the dice cup were 3, 4, 6 big. He Jiaying's eyeballs were about to fall off the table. Her expression was one of utter disbelief. Chapter 254. We were just saying that this kid was stupid. Who would have thought that he was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Someone who can make the king of gamblers suffer at the gambling table is not simple. The Gu family has really shot themselves in the foot this time. When Shinta Tianin heard these comments, she had mixed feelings. Just a moment ago, she had thought that Charlotte was a gambling addict and was very disappointed in him. Only now did she realize that Charlotte actually had an extraordinary talent for gambling. With his ability in this area, he could totally rely on gambling to live a very wealthy life. However, he did not do that and instead work hard to start his own business. This time, it was Gu Dingshan and He Jiaying who had set a trap to lure him into gambling. In other words, Gu Dingshan and He Jiaying had delivered themselves to him to be slaughtered. Who was it? Why would he not slaughter the fat sheep that had delivered themselves to him? When these comments landed in Gu Qian and Gu Kawu's ears, they were more unpleasant than anything else. The Gu siblings were angry, but the people present were all big shots in the business world. They were all prominent figures. Even if they wanted to vent their anger, they could not vent it on these people. The Gu siblings held themselves back, their faces ashen. They looked at Charlotte like the light in a convex mirror that could set Charlotte on fire. Charlotte ignored the Gu siblings' fierce gazes. He only sat there calmly with a faint smile on his face. How disappointing. It's over so soon. He Jiaying suppressed the anger in his heart. You still want to gamble? Charlotte nodded. Of course. I'm just afraid that you won't dare. He Jiaying really wanted to grab the ashtray on the table and throw it at Charlotte. He was the king of gamblers in Macau. When had he ever been ridiculed like this? However, he had to force himself to calm down. He knew very well that this was Charlotte's provocation. He was trying to lure them into gambling. With Charlotte's gambling style, Charlotte now had more than 160 million euros. If converted to Chinese currency, it would be more than 140 million Chinese currency. Who would dare to accept this bet? With this kind of gambling, even a few billion wouldn't be enough for Charlotte to win. Charlotte's gaze moved back to Gu Dingshan, and he said in a mocking tone, "Mr. Gu, you said before that I had to act like a real man. Now you should act like one too. Do you dare to continue gambling with me?" Gu Dingshan's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Gu Kawu said angrily, "Charlotte, show some respect. Didn't I just win some money? Why are you so arrogant?" Charlotte smiled. "Gu Kawu, you can come too." Gu Kawu did not move. Charlotte smiled and said, "Don't tell me you don't have money? Oh, by the way, all your money was given to you by your father, right? Go and call him and ask for some money to play with me. How about that?" Gu Kawu gritted his teeth. "Ha ha ha." Charlotte laughed loudly. "You'd better go home and do the laundry and cook. Don't come out and pretend to be some rich kid. F*CKU. Gu Kawu could no longer stand Charlotte's sarcasm, and he lunged at Charlotte. Gu Kuwin grabbed Gu Kawu for no other reason than she knew Charlotte's strength. Forget one Gu Kawu. Even 10 Gu Kawus would not be a match for Charlotte. Charlotte. Gu Dingshan stood up abruptly and slammed the gambling table. Don't you dare be so cocky in front of me. Charlotte also stood up and looked straight at Gu Dingshan. Then bet with me. It doesn't matter if you don't have cash. I'll take property and company shares. If you're a man, then bet with me. Gu Dingshan glanced at He Jiaying next to him. He Jiaying shook his head slightly. When He Jiaying lost the third round, he still wanted to win it back. However, with Charlotte forcing him to bet like this, he no longer had the slightest bit of confidence to bet with Charlotte. More importantly, Charlotte's chips were already as much as 1 billion renminbi. If he lost again, he would lose 1 billion renminbi. The more he lost, the scarier it would get. If Charlotte won 3 more rounds, his chips would be more than 8 billion renminbi. Then he would really lose everything. He Jiaying's misgivings were the same as Gu Dingshan's. He would not even think about betting with Charlotte, but that was not what he said. Kid, consider it your win today. Let's meet again another day. You have to take care of yourself too. Don't let anything happen to you. Otherwise, it'll be too good to be true. Are you threatening me? Charlotte smiled and suddenly slammed his palm on the solid wood dice cup. Crack! There was a crisp sound, and the solid wood dice cup was shattered by his palm. Everyone was shocked. How terrifying was his strength to shatter a solid wood dice cup with one palm. The corners of Gu Dingshan's eyes twitched slightly. After so many years, this was the first time he had felt fear. However, what made him feel fear was not Charlotte's terrifying strength, but Charlotte's gaze. He was all too familiar with that gaze because he used to look at people like that when he was in the underworld. Those who were looked at by him like that were either crippled or dead. None of them had a good ending. Charlotte said coldly, Gu Dingshan, and the two of you, Gu Kuan, I'll say this today. Don't come looking for trouble with me in the future. Otherwise, I don't care who you are, I won't let you see the sun again. Ha, is that so? Then we'll see. Gu Dingshan laughed coldly. Let's go. Gu Kuwu and Gu Kuan glared hatefully at Charlotte, then followed Gu Dingshan out. Charlotte called out to them. Wait, Gu Kuwu, I'll give you a warning. Gu Kuwu turned back to look at Charlotte and said disdainfully, Who do you think you are? Warning me. You should weigh your own weight before saying such things to me. Charlotte said coldly, Listen carefully. Don't bother Tianyin in the future. She doesn't like you at all. You're like a mangy dog pestering her like this. Don't you think you're disgusting? The room was silent. No one believed that an unknown person would dare to speak to the future successor of the Gu family like this. However, all the important people in the room were looking at this unknown person in a new light, for no other reason than Charlotte's current boldness. Gu Kuwu was so angry that he laughed. He pointed a finger at Charlotte. Good, very good. The Gu family and He Jiaying's group left the VIP chess room in a huff. The spectating guests also left. However, Shin Tianyin was still looking tenderly at Charlotte. Charlotte's warning against Gu Kuwu had touched the softest part of her heart. No matter how successful her career was, and no matter how prominent her position was in society, she was still just a woman who needed a man to protect her. Charlotte had already stood up for her more than once. For her sake, he had not hesitated to become enemies with an opponent of the Gu family's level. For her sake, he had not hesitated to act as bait and put himself under the gun of the assassins hired by Shintu Yi and Shinda Tianfeng. Wasn't such a man the man she needed? However, Shinda Tianyin was ashamed because she had misunderstood Charlotte just now and even felt very disappointed in him. This feeling made her very uncomfortable. However, Charlotte did not notice the change in Shinda Tianyin's mood. His gaze pierced through the walls of the VIP chess room. He soon saw a group of people from the Gu family walking in the corridor. In the corridor, Gu Kuwu took out his phone and dialed 3 numbers on the keypad. Hello, is this the police center? I want to call the police. Charlotte looked away. He had not actually had time to lip-read Gu Kuwu's words, but he knew what Gu Kuwu was trying to do from the fact that Gu Kuwu had only dialed 3 numbers. Call the police? F***CK. It's rare for me to win so much money. You want the police to confiscate it? Charlotte cursed in his heart, then shifted his gaze to Shinta Tianyin. Tianyin. Shinta Tianyin was still staring at him blankly, as if she had not heard him call her name. There was a smile on her lips, and she looked like she was in a trance. Tianyin? Charlotte called again. Oh, Shinta Tianyin finally came back to her senses. Charlotte said, "Do me a favor." "What do you want me to do?" Shinta Tianyin asked. Charlotte said, "Get someone to help me move this money away, quickly. I think the Gu family will call the police. If the police come, they will definitely confiscate this money." "No problem. I'll get someone to come right away." Shinta Tianyin took out her phone and made a call. 10 minutes later, Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin returned to the banquet hall. Everyone's gazes were gathered on Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin, not because Shinta Tianyin was holding Charlotte's arm, but because the news of the bet just now had spread throughout the banquet. Before this, not many people knew who Charlotte was, but now everyone knew who Charlotte was. Who said that this guy wasn't good enough for Shinta Tianyin? Did they make a mistake? He dared to challenge Gu Dingshan and Macau's gambling king. He Jiaying, alone, and even scolded the Gu family. Not to mention other things. Just this courage, and this courage is enough for him to be worthy of Shinta Tianyin. Someone said, he won 1 billion in one round. Damn, the real economy is in a slump now. My company can't even make that much money in a year, someone said enviously. He won, but it's not a good thing for him to provoke the Gu family like this. I don't think he'll have a good ending. Someone gloated. What do you know? Didn't someone say that he would jump off a building? But he won. If he didn't have the ability, would he dare to challenge the Gu family's authority? Don't joke around. He's not an idiot. Someone was optimistic about Charlotte. Almost all the guests were talking about Charlotte. Some said good things, some said bad things. Charlotte's gaze quickly swept across the banquet hall. He quickly found Gu Dingshan, Gu Kawu, Gu Kawun, and He Jiaying. These 4 people had not left, probably waiting for the police to testify. A cold smile appeared on Charlotte's lips. Let's go dance, Shinta Tianyin said. She had never danced with Charlotte before and wanted to. Charlotte said awkwardly, I don't know how. I'll teach you, Shinta Tianyin said with a smile. Charlotte braced himself and nodded, then followed Shinta Tianyin onto the dance floor. Put your arms around my waist, Shinta Tianyin said gently. Charlotte reached out and put his arms around her waist. It felt warm and delicate to the touch. Shinta Tianyin also leaned into his embrace, one arm around his waist and the other holding his hand, slowly leading him in the dance. Under normal circumstances, the female dancers at the banquet would not stick close to the male dancers, but Shinta Tianyin was very close to Charlotte. Her perky breasts were just a hair's breadth away from Charlotte's chest. She did not mind the gazes of the guests around them. She even enjoyed everything in front of her. The overly intimate contact made Charlotte very nervous. Plus, he did not know how to dance, so it was inevitable that he would step on Shinta Tianyin's feet. And every time he stepped on Shinta Tianyin's feet, he would be even closer to Shinta Tianyin. Beside the dance floor, Gu Kuwu's lips curled into a sinister sneer. I wonder if you'll still be able to smile later. Chapter 255. Charlotte's ability to learn new things was indeed very strong. After one dance, he mastered the dance technique and wouldn't step on Shinta Tianyin's feet again. After the second dance, Shinta Tianyin was still hugging Charlotte. You learn really fast. Let's dance again. Charlotte couldn't bear to refuse, so he smiled and said, Okay, let's dance again. But at this moment, a group of police officers rushed into the hall, and the hall was suddenly in chaos. The person leading the group was Su Lang. Charlotte was a little surprised and said, Wasn't that guy suspended for investigation? Shinta Tianyin frowned and said, Don't forget, his uncle is Chief Su Jingyi. Suspension doesn't mean dismissal. He will be reinstated after a period of time. You guessed it right. The Gu family really called the police. It seems that the Gu family must have helped Su Lang to be reinstated so quickly. Has the money been shipped away? I'll let Ming Mei take care of it. It shouldn't be a problem, Shinta Tianyin said. Charlotte was relieved and said with a smile, Then let's continue dancing. Okay. Shinta Tianyin was still hugging Charlotte's waist tightly as they danced on the dance floor. Only Xia Lei and Shinta Tianyin remained on the dance floor. One had a tall and handsome figure, The other had picturesque features and a tender and beautiful appearance. The two of them instantly became the center of attention and envy of everyone. Let the musicians leave. Su Lang strode to the dance floor. The musicians stopped playing under the police's scolding, but Shinta Tianyin wasn't affected at all. She quietly looked at Charlotte, hugged his waist, held his hand, and leaned against him as they danced on the dance floor. In her eyes, it was as if she and Xia Lei were the only two people left in the world, and there was nothing else. Although Charlotte wasn't as focused as Shinta Tianyin didn't want to stop, so he danced with her. Moreover, it felt really good to hold her waist and dance with her. "Stop," Su Lang said with a gloomy face. Those who should stop didn't, but those who shouldn't were quietly watching the handsome men and beautiful women on the dance floor and enjoying their dance. "I told you to stop," Su Lang roared. Only then did Shinta Tianyin stop. She stared at Su Lang coldly and said, "What are you doing?" "Miss Tianyin." Facing Shinta Tianyin, Su Lang had no choice but to be more courteous. "It's like this. We receive a report saying that there are people gathering here to gamble. Furthermore, the gambling stakes are huge. We are here to investigate." "Who is gambling?" Shinta Tianyin said with a smile. "Tianyin. Inspector Su, you'd better think carefully before you speak." "Miss Tianyin, of course it's not you. It's him." Su Lang pointed at Charlotte. "Charlotte, you're under arrest. Hand over your gambling money." Charlotte smiled and said, "Inspector Su, congratulations on your reinstatement so soon." "Don't try to get close to me," Su Lang said seriously. "Where's the gambling money?" However, Charlotte still looked very casual. "Inspector Su, we have to catch you in the act to arrest gambling, and the gambling money has to be seized on the table. You've been a police officer for so long. Don't tell me you don't even know these rules. However, since you, Inspector Su, personally came to arrest gambling, I can't not give you face. I'll give you all my money, and you can just treat it as the gambling money you seized." After saying that, he really took out his wallet and took out all the bits and pieces of money inside. He held them up with both hands and handed them to Su Lang. "Presumptuous." Su Lang flew into a rage out of humiliation and hit the bits and pieces of money in Charlotte's hand to the ground. Charlotte shrugged and retreated to Shinta Tianyin's side. Shinta Tianyin was also angry. She pointed in the direction of the door and said sternly, "Su Lang, get out." Su Lang didn't move and said coldly, "Miss Tianyin, please calm down. I'm just carrying out my official duties. I have a search warrant, and I have the right to search this hotel." After saying that, he showed the search warrant and waved his hand. "Search." The police officers brought by Su Lang immediately began to search. Every room was asked to be opened and searched. In particular, the VIP chess room used for gambling just now was the focus of the search. 2 police officers even let a search dog in. Charlotte's brows furrowed. He didn't expect Su Lang to bring a search dog. The specially trained police dog was very sensitive to the smell of money. If Fu Mingmei didn't have time to move the money away, it wouldn't take long for them to be found. Su Lang seemed to notice the change in Charlotte's expression. He sneered and said, "Charlotte, you can't hide so much money. Let me tell you, before I came here, I blocked all the passages around this hotel in advance. You won't have a chance to take so much money away." Gu Dingshan and He Jiaying came over, along with the brother and sister, Gu Qian and Gu Kawu. "Inspector Su, I surrender." Gu Dingshan said with a smile. "There were indeed people gambling just now, and I was one of them. I lost 60 million euros to Charlotte." He Jiaying also said, "I also surrender. I lost 80 million to Charlotte." Su Lang looked at Charlotte with a playful look and said, "We have witnesses and only lack physical evidence, but I believe it won't take long." Charlotte was silent. Gu Qian said in a strange tone, "Some people think that they got rich overnight and won $1 billion for no reason, but they didn't expect that before they could spend a cent, even their capital would be confiscated. Haha, is this the so-called extreme joy turns to sorrow?" Gu Kawu said, "Qian, don't talk like that. Mr. Xiao will be unhappy." All right, I won't say any more. Brother, you're just too soft-hearted and too kind." Gu Qian looked at Shinda Tianin as he spoke. The Gu siblings echoed each other, which made Charlotte feel sick. Su Lang said again, Charlotte, don't waste our time. Tell us yourself. Where did you hide the money? What money? Charlotte finally spoke. Illegal gambling money. Su Lang wanted to rush up and kick Charlotte. You said it was illegal? Did you see me win $1 billion? Charlotte sneered and said, I did play cards and I did win money, but these two guys cheated me with ghost money. Well, you won the money, right? I'll give it all to you later. Not to mention $1 billion. I'll give you $10 billion. You. Su Lang was angry on the spot. He Jiaying said, Boy, don't be too arrogant. We lost real money in euros, and you checked it yourself when we took the money. What? Do you want to be shameless now? Well, if you say it's true, then it's true. I've never seen real money before. I was cheated, Charlotte said. At this moment, Fu Mingmei walked over. She moved closer to Shinda Tianin and whispered something. Shinda Tianin nodded, and then Fu Mingmei left again. Charlotte looked at Shinda Tianin, and Shinda Tianin smiled slightly. This faint smile made Charlotte completely relax. What did she just say? Su Lang asked. His tone was no longer polite. Shinda Tianin glanced at Su Lang indifferently. Who do you think you are? Do I have to answer whatever you ask? Did the queen of the Wanxiang group need to be polite to a small inspector? No need. A policeman suddenly ran over. I found the money. Ha ha ha. Su Lang laughed. The Gu family and He Jiaying also laughed. Su Lang confiscated the gambling money, and they used their connections to get the money back, but Charlotte's capital of 21 million euros would definitely be confiscated. In this gamble, whether Charlotte won or lost, he couldn't escape the fate of being a loser. Where's the money? Su Lang couldn't wait and said, Take me to see it. Then he pointed at Charlotte. You have to come with me too. Charlotte was very obedient. Of course, congratulations to Inspector Su for solving the case so quickly. Don't talk nonsense, let's go. Su Lang pushed Charlotte. Charlotte didn't resist. He followed Su Lang and the policeman who led the way to a room next to the VIP chess room. As soon as he entered the door, he saw a large pile of euros on the floor, neatly stacked. A policeman with a police dog had a very strange look on his face. When Su Lang entered the door, he stammered, Inspector Su, this money. What's wrong with this money? Su Lang walked to the pile of euros, picked up a bundle, and opened it with his hand. With this, there was no need for the policeman to explain anything, because the answer was already presented in front of Su Lang. This bundle of euros only had 2 real ones on the front, and the inside was full of ghost money. Gu Dingshan and He Jiaying's faces turned green. Su Lang threw the large bundle of ghost money in his hand at the policeman who reported the news and said angrily, Didn't you say you found the money? Tell me what's going on. The policeman said nervously, I ran to tell you. I didn't look carefully. Idiot. Su Lang was going crazy. What happened was that 2 policemen with a search dog found the house where the money was hidden. One of them was in a hurry to report it to Su Lang, so he didn't have time to take a closer look before he went to report it to Su Lang. The remaining one found that the money was fake and didn't know what to do, so Su Lang came with Charlotte to admit that it was dirty. Charlotte suddenly pointed to He Jiaying and shouted, You bastard! You cheated me of 150 million. Give it back to me. He Jiaying said angrily, Bullshit. The money I gave you is real gold and silver and euros. Charlotte pointed to He Jiaying and shouted, You mother of asterisker, this is what you call real gold and silver and euros. You. He Jiaying didn't know how to defend herself. At that time, many people saw that Charlotte had transferred 150 million to He Jiaying's account through a special channel between He Jiaying and the bank. This was true, but only Charlotte checked the money. Moreover, he was very fast in inspecting the money. He only took a few glances and was done. So, in such a situation, who could tell whether the money He Jiaying gave was real or fake? He Jiaying and Gu Dingshan kept saying that one of them lost 60 million pounds and the other lost 80 million pounds, but this was just one side of the story. Xiaolei insisted that the money He Jiaying exchanged was fake money and that he won with Hell's money. In such a situation, even if Su Lang came to catch them gambling, what else could he gain besides the pile of Hell's money? The key to the problem was the money. If they found the money, everything would be fine. But the problem was that the money seemed to have grown wings and flew away. Even the search dogs couldn't find it. That sum of money had indeed grown wings and flown away. Just as Su Lang was on his way over with his men, Fu Chuanfu received a call from Tianyin. He brought people over with a helicopter from the Wanxiang building and transported the money from the rooftop. At that time, Fu Mingmei called a relative of hers, who happened to be in charge of funeral supplies and lived nearby. Bring him back for investigation. After a long silence, Su Lang suddenly gave the order. 2 police officers were ready to arrest them. Tianyin suddenly stood in front of Charlotte and said angrily, Su Lang, don't go too far. You don't have any reason or evidence. Charlotte, if you really do this, I promise you, I will make you step down at all costs. Su Lang was stunned. Tianyin, who are you trying to scare? Gu Dingshan said aloud. Inspector Su is a policeman of the people. What you're doing is wrong and even illegal. This was obviously a hint to Su Lang that he could arrest them. Bring them back for investigation. Su Lang ordered again. Wait. A woman's voice suddenly came. I have to take this person away. Chapter 256. The woman who appeared at the door was dressed in a black suit with an earpiece plugged into her ear and a Type 95 rifle in her hand. She was like a female agent in a Hollywood spy movie. Even her temperament and aura were exactly the same. Long Bing's appearance was still so cool. There were 2 people behind Long Bing. One was Ku Jie, and the other was someone that Charlotte did not recognize. They were dressed the same as Long Bing, also dressed in a black suit with an earpiece and a Type 95 rifle. They were also very cool. Long Bing's appearance surprised Charlotte because he did not call her for help, but she suddenly appeared with such an exaggerated lineup. However, with the ability of 101 innings and Long Bing's style of doing things, her sudden appearance was actually not a strange thing. The appearance of Long Bing and the 3 Type 95 rifles immediately suppressed the scene. The Gu family's people's faces were gloomy. He Jiaying was simply nervous and afraid, and Su Lang and his subordinates were stunned like blocks of wood, not knowing how to deal with the situation. Long Bing did not care what these people's reactions were. She walked straight to Charlotte and said with a serious expression, Charlotte, you are suspected of stealing state secrets. Come back with me now for investigation. With that, she took out a pair of handcuffs and was about to put them on Charlotte. Tianyin subconsciously blocked Long Bing's hand. You must have made a mistake. How could Charlotte steal state secrets? There must be a mistake. Stand aside if you want to be arrested, Long Bing said coldly, but when she spoke, she winked at Tianyin. Tianyin was a smart woman. With just this inconspicuous look, she understood the purpose of Long Bing's visit. She then retracted her hand and shut her mouth. Long Bing put the handcuffs on Charlotte. Let's go, you are finished this time, Charlotte said. I have nothing to say about falling into your hands. Su Lang's face could not help but show a bitter smile. He was very clear about the relationship between Long Bing and Charlotte. He still remembered the warning that his uncle Su Jingyi gave him. Don't provoke this woman. Now, Long Bing suddenly appeared to take Charlotte away. Who would believe that Charlotte had stolen state secrets? Maybe before they even walked out of the hotel, they were already talking about where to eat supper later. However, even though he knew this was the case, Su Lang could not stop Long Bing from taking Charlotte away. In front of a person like Long Bing, her special authority was not something that a small inspector like him could contend with. Wait, Gukuwu blocked the path of Long Bing and Charlotte and said tentatively, we are now dealing with a gambling case. The amount involved is more than $1 billion. You can't just take him away just like that. Long Bing looked at Gukuwu coldly. Who are you? Gukuwu. Gukuwu felt that he was looked down upon by Long Bing. His anger rose. Who are you? Show me your ID. Long Bing did not show any ID, but the moment Gukuwu closed his mouth, she suddenly hit the handle of the Type 95 rifle in her hand on Gukuwu's lower abdomen. Gukuwu groaned, and his feet uncontrollably squatted on the ground. Long Bing raised her hand, and the muzzle was pressed against Gu Kawu's head. Gu Kawu's forehead suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Gu Dingshan and Gu Qian originally wanted to stop and question Long Bing, but suddenly saw Long Bing's muzzle pressed against Gu Kawu's head. The father and daughter were stunned and could not speak. Long Bing said lightly, "Gu Kawu, I actually know who you are. But let me tell you, you have your circle and I have mine. We are people from two different worlds. If you think you have the ability to interfere with the mission of the National Security Agency, you can come and see if I dare to shoot you or not." Gu Kawu's lips moved, but he could not say a word. Long Bing put down the gun, pulled Charlotte's arm, and walked out. Gu Dingshan hesitated, and finally said, "Miss, leave your name." Long Bing stopped, and her eyes were cold. "Gu Dingshan, I'll give you a piece of advice. If you stop now, you still have a chance to live your remaining years in peace. If you continue to be stubborn, your end will be worse than Huang Yihu's." "Humph!" Gu Dingshan coldly snorted. This was his answer. Long Bing walked out of the room with Charlotte, and then walked toward the exit of a safe passage. Charlotte said, "Why are you here? Don't think that I came here to save you." Long Bing said, "There's some progress in that matter, and Anina also wanted to fly to see you, so I brought her here. I learned that you were here, so I came. Before I arrived, I saw a large number of police cars rushing here. Given your ability to cause trouble, I didn't need to guess to know that you were in trouble. So here I am." Charlotte smiled bitterly. "It's not that I want to cause trouble, but the Gu family doesn't want to let me go. They racked their brains to plot against me and wanted to kill me. I can't just let them kill me, right? I know. And because I know, I helped you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have helped you." Long Bing rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Charlotte changed the topic. "Where's Anina?" "In the car outside," Long Bing said. Soon, they reached the door. Kujia reached out and opened the door. Charlotte suddenly remembered something, and he stopped. Long Bing curiously said, "What are you doing? Why don't you go?" "I miss someone." Charlotte thought of Danny, the terrible killer. Danny said on the phone that he had come, but until now, he hadn't seen Danny. "Are you talking about that killer?" Long Bing's reaction was also very fast. Charlotte didn't say anything, and his eyes went through the door of the safety passage and instantly landed on the opposite building. Windows and balconies flashed past his left eye. Finally, his eyes stopped on the rooftop of the opposite building, and a black shadow on the rooftop came into his sight. And a sniper rifle. "Be careful!" Charlotte exclaimed, and suddenly turned around. He threw himself at Long Bing, and both of them fell to the ground. At the moment when the two of them fell to the ground, sparks and floor tiles splashed on the ground in the safety passage, and they felt a burning pain on their bodies. Long Bing's face was pale. If she had been a few tenths of a second late, not only would Charlotte have been killed, even she, who was behind Charlotte, would have been killed by the bullet that had pierced through Charlotte's body. Charlotte didn't stop. He used his legs to clamp Long Bing's waist and rolled to the side. Bang! Another muffled sound rang out, and the floor tiles of the safety passage exploded again. The bullets struck the walls of the passage, and several bullet marks were left on the walls. Kujia slammed the door shut. Another bullet pierced through the door, leaving a fist-sized crater. Kujia was almost hit, and he was so frightened that he lay on the ground beside the door, not daring to move recklessly. "Unlock my handcuffs!" Charlotte roared. Long Bing pulled out a key to unlock Charlotte's handcuffs and said into her earpiece, "Immediately block the exit of the opposite building. Hurry." "Where's your sniper rifle?" Charlotte threw away the handcuffs. Long Bing said, "In the trunk of the car outside." Charlotte suddenly got up and rushed to the door. Long Bing said anxiously, "Do you want to die?" Charlotte had already opened the door and rushed out. It wasn't that he didn't want to die, but he had already seen the sniper putting away his gun and preparing to retreat. All three shots missed the target. For a sniper whose position was exposed, it was a very dangerous thing to do. Although Charlotte didn't have time to see the sniper's face clearly, he had already determined that the sniper was Danny. Just as Charlotte rushed out of the safety passage, Long Bing also rushed out. There were two Hongqi MPVs parked on the side of the road. They were specially made and had bulletproof functions. When Charlotte rushed to the Hongqi MPV, The doors of the two cars were already open, and 5 agents in black suits rushed to the opposite building with guns. "Where's the gun?" Charlotte didn't know which car the modified sniper rifle was in, but he had already seen Anina. She was lying under the sofa in the back seat of the first Hongqi MPV, holding her head and looking very nervous. Longbing ran to the first Hongqi MPV, opened the trunk, and took out an engineering plastic box. Charlotte wanted to take the engineering plastic box, but Longbing stopped his hand. "Let me do it. This guy is mine." While talking, Longbing had already opened the engineering plastic box and was skillfully assembling the parts of the sniper rifle. "Then give me a gun," Charlotte said. Longbing said, "You stay here obediently. Your life is very important to this country." "You." Charlotte was angry on the spot. This was obviously a chance to kill Danny, but Longbing didn't give it to him. In less than 10 seconds, Longbing had already assembled the sniper rifle. She carried the sniper rifle and rushed to the opposite building. Charlotte wanted to run after her, but he remembered that he didn't even have a fork with him, so he stopped. "F***CK. You keep saying that I'm the consultant for 101 innings, but you don't even give me a gun. What kind of consultant am I?" Charlotte kicked the tire angrily. Then, his gaze moved to the opposite building, but after looking through the screen, he had already lost sight of Danny. Charlotte's heart suddenly sank. Danny's ability was obviously beyond his imagination. Anina climbed out of the car, still in shock, and said, "Lucas, are you hurt?" Charlotte pulled her to squat beside the tire. "I'm fine, how about you?" "I was scared, but I'm not hurt." Anina put her arms around Charlotte's neck and put her face on Charlotte's cheek. Charlotte patted her back gently and comforted her. "It's okay, don't be afraid. The shooter has run away. Can you catch him?" Anina was still very nervous. Charlotte knew very well that there was no way to catch Danny, but he said, "I hope so, don't worry. By the way, Longbing just said that there's some progress on the matter." "What's the situation?" Anina said, "I'm not sure, but I've settled it. I've completed my plan. But that's not why I'm in a hurry to find you, because I miss you." Charlotte's waist inexplicably ached. Chapter 257. In Charlotte's home. "You said that the person who tried to kidnap Xia Shui and stabbed your bodyguard is called Danny?" Longbing stared at Charlotte with a strange look. "How did you know?" Charlotte said, "At the cocktail party, I stole Gu Kawu's mobile phone. I used Gu Kawu's mobile phone to call Danny and confirm his identity." Longbing then said to Ku Jia, who was standing at the door, "Go and find out the identity of this person. I want to know all his information." Ku Jia nodded and went out the door. "That guy is not simple. He escaped our encirclement in less than 5 minutes. He is very dangerous. He must die." Longbing said. Charlotte said, "If you give me the sniper rifle, I may be able to kill him. When will you give me a gun?" "As long as you officially join 101 innings, I can give you a gun. You can have any gun you want." Charlotte smiled bitterly. He didn't want the gun anymore. "Right. How did you find a sniper?" That is, the Danny you mentioned." Longbing looked at Charlotte quietly. Charlotte said, "My intuition and my eyes are very good. I can see a lot of things in a dark environment, and I can see relatively far. This is also the reason why we met in Macau." Charlotte was very clear that Longbing was not a fool. Even if he didn't say it, she could guess that his eyes could see very far. Otherwise, he would definitely not be able to find the sniper. In this case, instead of using other reasons to fool her, it was better to tell her the truth, the vague truth. "How far can you see?" Charlotte thought for a moment. "About a few hundred meters. If there is light reflection, such as the reflection of the sniper scope, I can see very far." This explanation was very reasonable. Even at night, there was no lack of light in the city environment. The sniper scope was likely to reflect light from a certain direction, and he could see it. Longbing was silent for a moment before she said, "You're able to process ultra-precise components. This has already proven that your eyesight is excellent. Perhaps you should test your eyesight to see how far it can go." Charlotte shrugged. "I don't want to be a lab rat. Let's not talk about my vision. Let's talk about that. He couldn't avoid other people's suspicions, but he could prevent others from understanding his abilities. It was very simple. As long as he was unwilling, no one could force him to do anything. A very simple example was that he could actually see clearly from a distance of 4,000 meters. But if Long Bing held the vision chart, he could say that he couldn't see clearly from a distance of 50 meters, and Long Bing wouldn't be able to verify his words. It's like this. I told your proposal to Boss Sure, and Boss Sure discussed it with the higher-ups. The higher-ups said that they can give you 500 million yuan, but they want 50% of the shares. Long Bing shifted the topic to business. What about the land? Charlotte asked. 100 acres of land in the suburbs. They can also give it to you, but if you don't have the money, they want to add 20% of the shares. That is 70% of the shares. Long Bing said. Charlotte chuckled. They really know how to calculate. They control 70% of the shares, so they will definitely send someone to supervise it. That person's authority is certainly higher than mine. I have to ask him for instructions before I do anything, and if something goes wrong, I have to take the blame for him. Is that right? Long Bing said, I don't know about these things. I'm not a businessman, so I'm not familiar with these things. I only know that you don't have to pay a penny for 30% of the shares. It's a profit, so be content. Boss Sure said that as long as you agree, we'll go to the capital tomorrow to sign the contract. Charlotte said, You tell Boss Sure that I don't want a loan, nor do I want anyone's money. I have money, and I don't want the land to be free. I'll buy it with money. I don't want anyone to take a step in my company. Long Bing said in surprise, Building such a company, plus buying the land and other expenses, it will cost at least 700 or 800 million. Where did you get so much money? Charlotte said with a smile, I won it by playing cards with Gu Dingshan. Long Bing stared at Charlotte. Isn't that money fake? And it's under the control of the police. Charlotte said, If it was real, I would have already moved it away. If I knew this, I wouldn't have saved you. I should have let the police arrest you. Long Bing looked a bit unhappy. Charlotte said, Gu Dingshan and the Macau gambling king, He Jiaying, teamed up to cheat me. How could I not eat the meat that was delivered to me? If I win money, they will call the police. If I lose all my money, who will care about me? Long Bing was silent for a moment and then said, I don't know about this. If Mr. Sure or someone asks you where the money came from, how will you explain it? Charlotte smiled. I borrowed it from Shinta Tianin. Can't I? Well, I'll contact Mr. Sure now. You get ready. We'll go to the capital tomorrow. This kind of thing, you have to talk to him face to face sooner or later. Long Bing got up and went out. Charlotte said, It's so late. You can stay here and sleep in Xiao Xue's room. Long Bing's footsteps stopped, but only for a moment. Then she opened the door and went out. As soon as Long Bing left, Anina poked her head out of his room and said, Lucas, we should talk about the proposal. Charlotte. The room was filled with a faint fragrance, the dim light, and a Germanic beauty who was 185 meters tall. As for the proposal, it was on the bedside table, but it was the most inconspicuous place. Anina was no longer wearing the funny children's version of pajamas that Xia Shui gave her. Instead, she was wearing a white, thin, and fashionable nightdress. Under the penetration of the light, it could hardly cover the important parts of her body. There was always a hazy and attractive scenery that was revealed. The most obvious was her breasts, which gave people a vivid feeling that they were about to come out. There was also her plump buttocks. The curve was perfect, mature, and attractive. Charlotte was familiar with everything about her, but this moment, facing her, he still couldn't control his thoughts and wanted to fantasize about those messy things. He couldn't control his body's reaction, and it was very strong. Anina's face had a sweet smile. She laid her body flat on the bed, looking very soft. She didn't say anything, but this was a strong hint. It was time for him to go over and discuss the proposal in depth. Xiaolei walked over and sat beside her. He took a deep breath and said softly, Anina, there are some things that I don't know if I should say, but I don't know if I can give you the love and home you want. Perhaps what we are doing is wrong. Anina raised her arm and blocked Charlotte's mouth with her index finger. Your appearance has changed my life. I am now a homeless person. I can't control what will happen in the future, and I don't want to think about it. I am an intuitionist. I believe in my intuition. You are my angel. If I follow you, I can get the happiness I need. Just like right now. I'm with you. I'm very happy, very happy. For me, that's enough. What the hell is intuitionism? Charlotte's brain could no longer think about this philosophical question because his head had been pulled down by Anina to taste the delicious taste between her lips. In fact, Anina had already used her body language to explain what intuitionism meant. What status, what future, those things that existed and existed in the future, she didn't care. She only cared about her feelings at this moment. She was happy and comfortable with Charlotte. She had everything he had at this moment, and that was enough. Intuitionism. This seemed to be the only philosophical standard to measure whether a lover was the best lover. Because of the big movement, Anina's nightdress was torn, and a large part of her voluptuous waist was exposed. Anina said gloomily, "Damn, I just bought it yesterday." Charlotte held back his laughter. "Where did you buy it?" "Taobao, 20 yuan. Anina frowned slightly. "This is my first time wearing it. Can I exchange it?" "Why do you need to change a nightdress that you bought for 20 yuan? I will buy a new one for you later. You don't have experience shopping on Taobao, and it's easy for you to buy this kind of product." Charlotte was imparting his knowledge, but he was depressed in his heart. Why was she talking about a 20 yuan nightdress at this time? Anina was very excited and happy. "Then buy me a student uniform, a police uniform, and also a nurse and a female soldier." Several black lines had already appeared on Xia Lei's forehead. The 20 yuan nightdress fell to the ground quietly. That was where it belonged. A white plan was presented in front of Charlotte, and he delved into it, looking for loopholes and fixing those loopholes. Influenced by Anina, Charlotte felt that he had also become an intuitionist. Outside the neighborhood, in a bulletproof car with a red flag, Section Chief Long, Kujie passed a military laptop to Long Bing. "This is the information I found on Danny." Long Bing's eyes moved to the screen of the laptop, but her face showed a strange expression. On the screen of the laptop was the file of an 8-year-old child, and the child was dead. The dead stamp on the upper right corner of the file was very eye-catching. Kujie said, "This child was an orphan adopted by Gu Dingshan 20 years ago. The child was only 4 years old when he was adopted. Later, Gu Dingshan rose quickly, but the child died inexplicably. The body was cremated locally. I just made a phone call, and there is a tombstone in the cemetery." Long Bing frowned and fell into deep thought. Section Chief Long, Charlotte said that the killer was Danny. "How could a child who died 16 years ago be a killer?" Kujie said, "You must have made a mistake. How do you explain Danny's name on Gu Kuwu's mobile phone?" Long Bing said. Kujie thought for a moment. "Maybe it's a foreigner with the same name." Long Bing shook her head. Gu Dingshan started his career in the underworld, and his hands were stained with blood. He never did it himself. He needed someone to do this kind of dirty work for him. If a dead killer did those dirty things for him, who would trace it to him? "You mean?" Kujie was surprised. Gu Dingshan deliberately let the child fake his death and secretly trained him to be a cold-blooded killer? "This is just my guess." Long Bing closed the laptop. "Take 2 people to the cemetery and dig up the child's grave. What if there are bones? Then take a sample and do a DNA test." Long Bing's eyes were cold. Whoever dared to assassinate Charlotte in front of her, no matter who the killer was, must die. Chapter 258. It suddenly rained in the middle of the night. The cold raindrops hit the windows and the roof, making subtle sounds. The wind was blowing, but it couldn't blow away the resentment and hatred in the ensemble of heroes. Crash! Gu Dingshan suddenly threw a valuable purple clay teapot in his hand to the ground. The brown teapot was broken into dozens of pieces, and the tribute-grade oolong tea inside spilled all over the ground. Damn it! Even the Macau gambling king couldn't make that kid go bankrupt. Instead, he won 1 billion from us. This matter was like a thick phlegm spat on Gu Dingshan's face, making him extremely disgusted. Gu Kuwu said cautiously, I can't figure out how Charlotte transferred so much money in such a short time. If Su Lang acted a little faster, we would have been able to intercept that money. Gu Qian said, Dad, brother, isn't it obvious? That's Shintu Tianin's territory. She must have helped to transfer it. That bitch is really hateful. Brother, you are infatuated with her, but she loves that kid like a devil. Whenever I think of how happy and sweet she looked when she was dancing with Xiaolei on the dance floor, I feel bad for you. Gu Kuwu sneered, I don't love her. I love the Wanxiang group. If I can't get it, no one else can. Her family is richer than ours, and she doesn't have you in her heart. I think it's too difficult to get such a woman. Gu Qian didn't think that Gu Kuwu could marry Shinda Tianin. Stop fighting, Gu Dingshan said angrily. Let's put Shinda Tianin's matter aside. Let's deal with this kid first. Gu Kuwu and Gu Qian both shut their mouths. Gu Dingshan sneered, I can't figure it out. A poor kid from a construction site suddenly became rich and so difficult to deal with. Is he the reincarnation of Monkey's son? Gu Kuwu said, Dad, I don't think Charlotte is difficult to deal with. It's that woman who is difficult to deal with. We have to be careful of her. You mean the woman who claimed to be from the National Security Agency? Gu Dingshan also had a deep impression of Long Bing. That's her. Gu Kuwu couldn't help but feel a surge of hatred when he thought of the spear handle that Long Bing had given him. Gu Dingshan thought for a moment. After returning to the capital, I'll ask someone to investigate. As long as I can find out her background, it won't be difficult to deal with a woman like her. By the way, Gu Qian suddenly remembered something. I wonder how Danny is doing. He should have made a move tonight, but there's still no sign of him. Gu Kuwu said, after Charlotte was taken away by that woman, I called Danny, but he turned off his phone. Danny only turns off his phone when he's on the move, Gu Dingshan sneered. Maybe he'll bring us a surprise. At this moment, the light from the window suddenly dimmed. Gu Dingshan, Gu Kuwu, and Gu Kuwu noticed it. When they looked over, the door opened. A young man in a raincoat came in, holding a black box in his hand. He was Danny, a man who had been dead for 16 years. He looked like a living dead who had just crawled out of the grave, exuding a cold aura from head to toe. His eyes were even colder, not like a human's eyes. How was it? Gu Dingshan had long been accustomed to Danny's coldness. Danny put the box containing the sniper rifle on the ground. I failed. Danny, you can also fail? Gu Qian looked very surprised. Gu Kuwu also anxiously said, Tell me what happened. Danny took off his raincoat and threw it on the ground. Before the woman took him out of the hotel's safety passage, I had already locked it. I was waiting for the opportunity to shoot him. In this case, even a killer of the same level as me would not be able to escape from my sniper rifle. As long as he was in my line of sight and within range, I only needed 3 seconds, including the time the bullet took to travel through the air, to kill him. However, the moment the door opened, he actually sensed my presence. At that time, I had actually pulled the trigger, but he still managed to dodge. Not only did he dodge, but he also knocked the woman away. Otherwise, even if I couldn't kill him, I could have killed the woman. This was what happened, and this was the result. But Gu Dingshan, Gu Kuwu, and Gu Qian could not believe it. Danny opened his box, revealing the sniper rifle parts inside. He then said, My gun is an M200 sniper rifle equipped by the U.S. Special Forces. It has an effective range of 2,300 meters. My sniping point was 2,000 meters away from the door. The bullet of this sniper rifle can travel at a speed of 1,000 meters per second, so I only needed 3 seconds to kill him. In fact, that's what I did. Everything went according to my plan. It was perfect, but I failed. How did he detect you? Danny's explanation was very professional, but Gu Kuwu still could not believe that Charlotte could detect Danny's presence from such a long distance, and he even dodged the bullet before it reached him. Danny was silent for a moment, then said, I don't know, but I had a strange feeling at that time. I felt that the moment the door opened, he seemed to have seen me. Gu Dingshan laughed inexplicably. Danny, are you kidding me? At night, 2,000 meters away, and you were hiding. How could he see you? Danny shook his head. I don't know, but I know that he is a terrible person. Gu Qian said unhappily, Danny, What do you mean by that? Since when did you become such a coward? Danny looked at Gu Qin. There was no emotion in his eyes. Qin, you know that I am not a person who is afraid of death. I just want to tell you what I know, so that you can make the right judgment. A person that even I can't kill, once his eyes turn red, the consequences will be unimaginable. Gu Dingshan said coldly, You want me to consider whether it's worth killing him, right? Danny did not speak, just nodded. Before Gu Dingshan could speak, Gu Qin interrupted. Let him go? Impossible. That guy stole my patent, not only squeezing my company's overseas market, but also the domestic market. How could I swallow this insult? Well, even if Yedong Sports is a small company, not worth mentioning in the North Group, that guy stole it. If it weren't for him, my brother would probably be preparing for his wedding with Shinta Tianyin. In less than 3 years, the Wanxiang Group would belong to our Gu family. What about this loss? And what happened tonight? Not only did my father lose face, but he also won $1 billion from us. Gu Dingshan was silent for a moment, then said, If you didn't shoot, there might be room for negotiation. But you did, and that guy will definitely guess that it's related to us. With his personality, he won't just let it go. If we stop now, when he becomes stronger, we'll be the unlucky ones. Gu Kuwu also said, Also, Danny, you once kidnapped his sister and assassinated his bodyguard. That guy values his sister more than anything else, so he won't let go of this hatred. Our current situation is like an arrow shot from a bow. There's no turning back. Hatred was a complicated yet simple thing. Sometimes, an unpleasant word could cause two people who were familiar with each other to draw their swords against each other. Sometimes, accidentally stepping on someone's foot could lead to a murder. The grudge between Charlotte and the Gu family started because of Lu Ying, and then because of Shinta Tianyin. Now, the hatred had accumulated to the point where it could not be resolved. Okay, I understand. I'll continue to assassinate him, but I'm afraid I can't do it alone. I need $10 million, and I have to invite a few foreign colleagues, said Danny. No problem, but you know the rules, said Gu Dingshan. Danny said lightly, I know, I have nothing to do with the Gu family. Outside the window, the rain continued to fall, and there was no sign of it stopping. At the same time, in the Sun Hill Cemetery, an old grave was dug up, revealing the urn inside. The urn was made of white marble, and the rain had washed away the dirt on the urn. There was no sign of decay or weathering. Ku Jie jumped into the pit and reached out to open the lid. There were no ashes in the urn, only a plastic transformer toy. It was broken, missing an arm and a leg. However, it could be barely recognized as Bumblebee from the Autobot faction. Damn, what the hell is this? Ku Jie threw Bumblebee into the urn, then climbed up. Bury it well, and don't let anyone know that someone has touched the soil. The two agents waved the shovel to fill the soil. Ku Jie went to the side and dialed a number. At the entrance of the community, in a Hongqi commercial car, Long Bing answered the phone. What's the situation? Chief Long, you guessed it right. The urn is empty, and the orphan adopted by Gu Dingshan is not dead at all. Ku Jie's voice came from the phone. Long Bing said, Immediately issue a scavenger order. Let our scavengers find him and get rid of him. Yes. Ku Jie hung up the phone. Long Bing closed her eyes, but her mind kept replaying the scene that happened in the safety passage. Charlotte suddenly turned around and slammed her to the ground, and a sniper rifle bullet flew over his head at that moment. Charlotte was full of mysteries, and she couldn't see through him. Ring, 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 ring. Charlotte's cell phone suddenly rang, just as he was busy. Who would call so late at night? They really know how to pick the time. Ring, 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 ring. Charlotte reached out and grabbed the phone on the bedside table. When he saw the caller ID, he suddenly became nervous. The caller was Shinta Tianyin. Don't answer. She clung to Charlotte, and her blue eyes were full of gentle flames. She wanted to melt Charlotte for the third time. How could she allow someone to disturb her at this time? Charlotte was also embarrassed. Should he pick up or not? Ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring, ring. Charlotte bit the bullet and gestured for her to be quiet, then slid the answer button. It's me, Tianyin. Are you okay? Shinta Tiannin's voice was full of concern. I'm fine. I'm already home. Charlotte didn't know what to say. I'm calling you so late at night to tell you that the money is safe. I plan to help you make a detour from a Swiss bank and then transfer it from my company's account to your account. In this way, if someone investigates the origin of the money, you can say that I gave it to you. Shinta Tiannin's voice was very gentle. Well, thank you. Charlotte was a little touched and a little guilty, but he didn't know why. Then you should rest early. The money will be settled tomorrow at noon. You don't have to worry. You should rest early too. Say hello to Uncle for me. Okay, I'll come and see him when I have time. Shinta Tiannin hung up the phone. There was no sound from the phone, but Charlotte was still holding the phone in a daze. He was thinking about a question in his heart. Why am I nervous? I actually have a feeling of being caught having an affair. I'm not in a relationship with her. Why do I have these strange feelings? Could it be that in my heart, the feeling of seeing her for the first time has always been there? Anina suddenly wrapped her slender arms around Charlotte's neck and pulled him down. She was an intuitive person, so she didn't even bother to ask who was calling. This is the last time, okay? Charlotte's voice was trembling. This is the second time. We have a deal. Seal. Charlotte lay down weakly. It was very strange. There's always a shadow of Shinta Tiannin in his mind, even when Anina kissed him with her lips. Chapter 259. Although he was a consultant for 101 innings, it was the first time that Charlotte had come to the headquarters of 101 innings. It was an old office building that looked like it was at least 50 or 60 years old. However, there was a big difference between it and the buildings of that era. It was sturdy and could almost withstand ordinary artillery attacks. He did not know if it was a coincidence, but the number plate of this old building, which was only 5 stories high, was also 101. In front of the old building was a yard, and behind it was a field. However, the people who were active in the field were not the agents of 101 innings, but a group of old men and women in their 70s and 80s. When he arrived, Charlotte's first impression was that it was a nursing home, not some mysterious department. 101 innings. Are you surprised? Long Bing asked casually as she led Charlotte to the old building. Charlotte smiled. I can understand. This is probably a kind of disguise. Well, it's like this. Since you're here, I'll give you a tour. After all, you're considered half a person from 101 innings, Long Bing said. Charlotte said, it's just a place like this. What's there to see? Follow me and you'll know. Long Bing led Charlotte into the building and into the elevator. She leaned over to take a look at the keyboard, then entered the 6 numbers 101005 on the keyboard. No one would operate an elevator like this. Charlotte was curious. Just as he was about to ask her what she was doing, the elevator suddenly moved. However, it was not going up but down. Long Bing glanced at Charlotte and said lightly, this elevator needs to verify your identity and password before you can activate the secret mode. Otherwise, you can only go up and not down. The people upstairs are actually just some logistics staff and a department responsible for cover. Is 101005 a universal password? Charlotte asked curiously. Long Bing said, no, that's just my password. Everyone has their own password. My number is 005. If you really join 101 innings, you will also get a password that belongs to you. With that password and retina login, you can enter the real 101 innings. It turned out that she had leaned in front of the keyboard to receive a scan and log in with her retina. Charlotte smiled and said, stop trying to persuade me to join 101 innings. I think I'll just be a consultant. Am I not serving my country now? My identity doesn't matter. The elevator stopped and the door opened. Charlotte couldn't wait to get out. What entered his line of sight was a huge arched space, like a bunker that had been magnified many times. The space was divided into several areas, each with a different function. Agents in different areas were doing different jobs. Some were operating computers, some were testing weapons, some were doing combat training, some were operating drones, and some were learning how to fly different types of aircraft in the simulator. There were many doors on the circular walls of the arched space. Some of the doors were open and looked like offices. Long Bing led Charlotte through the office area, and came to a door. Without waiting for Long Bing to knock, Charlotte saw Sherbourne sitting in the office and a middle-aged man in casual clothes. The man looked to be in his 40s, had a square face, and was very imposing. Charlotte thought to himself, Sherbourne knows that I'm here to talk about the military factory, but he left this person in his office. Could it be that this person is also here for this? Long Bing reached out and knocked on the door. Sherbourne's voice came from the office. Come in. Long Bing pushed the door open and led Charlotte in. As soon as he entered the door, he saluted, but he didn't address anyone in the office. When Charlotte was about to greet him, Sherbourne rushed to say, Come, Charlotte, let me introduce you. This is Mr. Tang Tianlong. Charlotte smiled and said politely, Mr. Tang, nice to meet you. He thought to himself, I wonder if this Tang guy has anything to do with Tang Bochuan and Tang Yuan. Tang Tianlong stood up and shook hands with Charlotte. He also said politely, I've long heard that Mr. Xia is a capable person, and I've been wanting to meet you for a long time. It's a pleasure to meet you. Mr. Tang, you flatter me. Charlotte said tentatively, May I know who Mr. Tang is? Tang Tianlong said with a smile, I work for the government. As for what I do, you don't need to know. Charlotte didn't probe further. Sherbourne said, Long Bing, go and do your work. There's nothing for you to do here. Long Bing turned around and left without saying a word. Charlotte, have a seat. Sherbourne asked Charlotte to sit down and went to the water dispenser to pour a glass of water for Charlotte. Charlotte got up and took it. Boss, sure, don't be so polite. Just tell me if you have anything to say. Then I'll be straightforward. Sherbourne sat opposite Charlotte and looked straight at Charlotte. I believe Long Bing has already told you about our plan. What's your opinion? Tang Tianlong's eyes also moved to Charlotte's face, as if he wanted to see through Charlotte's eyes. Charlotte had already guessed that Tang Tianlong had something to do with the construction of the military factory. He already had an answer to Sherbourne's question. Our country is in a period of development. It's not rich. It can even be said that it's very difficult. In this case, how can I ask for the country's money? I've decided that I don't want the country's money. I'll invest and produce it myself. I'll definitely produce a sniper rifle that's comparable to the international first-class level for the country. Well, there will be better firearms in the future. Sherbourne and Tang Tianlong looked at each other. Their faces were expressionless, and they didn't say anything. Charlotte pretended to be stunned. Did I say something wrong? Hee. Sherbourne laughed 3 times and suddenly pointed at Charlotte's nose. You brat, if you want to take it all for yourself, just say it. Why are you pulling the flag? Tang Tianlong took a sip of water and said slowly, Mr. Xia, our country is not poor. It's the second largest economy in the world and holds trillions of U.S. Treasury bonds. I think you can still take out hundreds of millions of dollars to build a weapons production line, right? How can we continue to talk if you make it sound so nice? Mr. Tang, are you the person responsible for negotiating with me? Charlotte tentatively asked. Yes, I'm the official representative responsible for negotiating with you. This time, Tang Tianlong readily admitted it. Sherbourne said, Charlotte, just say it. What do you think in your heart? I don't want to listen to your words. Okay, then I'll be straightforward. Charlotte said, my idea is actually very simple. I don't want my own company to be involved, and I don't want you to send a supervisor to instruct me to do this and that. This is also detrimental to the production and operation of the company. In short, I'll be responsible for all the investments. I'll give you the best sniper rifle or other firearms. Tang Tianlong frowned. Young man, you have to be clear. You're producing weapons, not toys. Don't you need to supervise such dangerous things? Charlotte said, Of course. You can send soldiers to guard the gate and the warehouse. The weapons produced need your approval before they can leave the factory. Isn't that enough? You supervise these, and I'll manage the company. That's my only condition. Brat, you really? Do you have so much money? Almost 1 billion, Sherbourne said. Yes, Charlotte said. I borrowed 1 billion from Shinta Tianin. It should be enough. Tang Tianlong and Sherbourne looked at each other again. Xiao Xia, do you think you can give in a little? Charlotte interrupted him. This is my only condition. If you don't meet it, then I'll give up this investment. You? Tang Tianlong was also angry. Sherborin glared at Charlotte, looking like he wanted to bite him, but he couldn't do anything to Charlotte. The reason was simple. The domestic sniper rifles were too backward, so China's special forces had to borrow foreign sniper rifles when they participated in competitions. Charlotte was able to modify Long Bing's best sniper rifle with his own hands, and that stubborn German woman wouldn't cooperate unless it was Charlotte. In such a situation, and with his heaven-defying skills, how could he not be arrogant? Charlotte's tone softened a little. Chiefs, I'm not deliberately going against you. Think about it. Don't you want the most advanced sniper rifle? You can also control this military factory, so why do you need the shares? I don't believe that our country is still interested in that little bit of money. The reason why I have this condition is actually for the sake of the company. The company is mine, and I've invested so much money in it. Of course, I have to find a way to do a good job. If the company was yours, why would I work so hard? Don't you think I'm right? Tang Tianlong and Sherborin looked at each other again. Hey, you're amazing. I thought we could persuade you, but I didn't expect you to be as stubborn as that German woman. Tang Tianlong sighed. Well, what you said actually makes some sense. There are so many military factories in our country, but we can't make the best sniper rifles. Sometimes when you think about it, it has something to do with the company's management model. Okay, I'll make an exception and let you be the first private entrepreneur in our country to own a military factory. If you do a good job and set a good example, more private capital will enter the arms market in the future. Are you confident? Charlotte smiled and said, Of course, Mr. Tang. You don't have to worry about anything. You know, I've invested 1 billion yuan, and the money is borrowed. I'm bearing all the risks. How can I not do my best? Tang Tianlong smiled. Let's sign the contract. After signing the contract, I'll ask someone to take you to see the land. I've prepared a few spare pieces of land. You can use whichever one you like. Okay. Charlotte was even more curious about Tang Tianlong's identity. Listening to Tang Tianlong's tone, his position might be higher than Sherborin's. The contract was very thick. It was more than 30 pages, and there were as many as hundreds of clauses. However, Charlotte's reading speed was heaven-defying. It only took him 10 minutes to read the entire contract, and then he signed it. Tang Tianlong also signed and then exchanged the contract with Charlotte. Sherborin pressed the pager on the table. In less than a minute, a woman walked in without even knocking on the door. Seeing her face clearly, Xiaolei was stunned for a moment. It turned out to be Tang Yuyan. Tang Yuyan was wearing loose training clothes, but this kind of clothes did not affect her graceful Shinda curves. She was still curvaceous and very provocative. Tang Yuyan smiled at Charlotte and then said, Dad, Godfather, can I take her away? Charlotte was petrified on the spot. Chapter 260. A military jeep was driving on the road, and the capital city was gradually left behind. Let's go to the first land. I've already seen it. It's next to a village. It's a river bank. It's very suitable for building a factory. Tang Yuyan broke the silence in the car. How many pieces of land? Charlotte asked. 4. I've seen them for you. Tang Yuyan said. Charlotte said, Can you give me a suggestion? Tang Yuyan smiled. I have no experience. My task is to take you to have a look and be responsible for your safety. As for where to build a factory, it's up to you to make your own decision. Well, Charlotte squinted at her. Miss Tang, can I ask you a question? What do you want to ask? Tang Yuyan's mouth always had a faint smile. What does your father do? Tang Yuyan smiled. I knew you would ask me this question, but I didn't expect you to ask me for so long. I don't mind telling you, he's in the equipment department. It's not a very high official, almost the same as my godfather. No way. Charlotte somewhat didn't believe it. He believed that Tang Tianlong was in the equipment department, but he didn't believe that Tang Tianlong was a small figure. Tang Yuyan pursed her red lips, then looked at Charlotte. Long Bing has led you astray. So suspicious. I'm telling the truth. If he's a big shot, will he personally come to see you and sign a contract with you? If you want to build a big company that can produce fighter jets or tanks, then there will be big shots coming to see you. Charlotte smiled. What Tang Yin said was reasonable. He was just a private entrepreneur running a small company. How could there be big shots coming to see him and sign a contract with him? However, the Tang family of Sichuan still gave him an unfathomable impression. Mr. Xia, I personally acted as your coachman and guide today. How will you thank me? Well, I'll treat you to dinner. What do you want to eat? How can I let you treat me in the capital? I'll treat you to dinner. How about you give me a sniper rifle? The performance must be the same as the one in Long Bing's hand. Okay? Tang Yin looked at Charlotte with a smile. This seemed to be the reason why Tang Yin personally took Charlotte to see the land. Charlotte thought for a moment. Well, give me the gun you want to modify. I'll help you modify it when I return to Haiju. I've already prepared it for you. It's under the back seat. Tang Yin said. Xiaolei turned around to take a look. Sure enough, there was a plastic box in the shape of a strip under the back seat sofa. His left eye moved slightly, and then he saw a domestic sniper rifle inside. It was exactly the same as the one he had modified for Long Bing. Xiaolei retracted his gaze and smiled bitterly. So you've already prepared for this? Because I know you won't refuse me, Tang Yin said with a smile. The car entered the suburbs, drove forward for a while, and then came to a riverbank. This land was about 20 kilometers away from the city, and it would take more than 10 minutes to drive into the city. The traffic was very convenient. It was also very large, about hundreds of acres. How about this land? Tang Yin said. As she spoke, she gently jumped onto a big stone that was almost 1 meter high and looked down at Charlotte. Charlotte looked up at her. Good. Do you know how much this land is? 200 million. Tang Yin said. It's very close to the city. Even industrial land won't be cheap. Then take me to the next land. It's too expensive, Charlotte said. Okay, I'll take you there. Tang Yin suddenly jumped down from the big stone, stretched out her long legs, and suddenly kicked at Charlotte's chest. Charlotte hurriedly dodged and said, Miss Tang, what are you doing? Tang Yin didn't speak and swept her leg at Charlotte's leg again. Charlotte jumped back and was a little angry. Miss Tang, don't make trouble, okay? Tang Yin's reply was a flurry of quick punches. Her fist was snow-white and sparkling. It looked very weak, but its strength was surprisingly great. Her speed was also very fast, bringing with it the sound of the wind. Charlotte blocked Tang Yin's fast punch with his elbow and palm, and Tang Yin's fist made his elbow and palm feel dull pain. He was forced to retreat, and in the blink of an eye, he was forced to a small river. That's enough. Charlotte had nowhere to retreat to. If he retreated any further, he would have to take a bath in the river. However, Tang Yin didn't seem to hear Charlotte's warning. She made a feint with her fists and suddenly spun around and whipped her leg at Charlotte's shoulder. Her movements were extremely agile, and even with such a domineering attack, she looked like a beautiful sparrow when she stretched her body and swung her leg in the air. Charlotte had heard from Liang Zhengshan that the Tang sect was not only good at hidden weapons, but also the Tang sect's Qin Gong and the Tang family fist. Charlotte had not witnessed the Tang sect's Qin Gong, but he had witnessed the Tang family fist's strength, and he was enraged. Just as the long leg was about to reach him, Charlotte suddenly took a step forward and cut sideways between Tang Yin's legs. Tang Yin didn't expect Charlotte's reaction and speed to be so terrifying. By the time she wanted to retract her leg, it was already too late. Charlotte's shoulder had already slammed heavily into her perky buttocks, and a powerful impact immediately came from her perky buttocks. Her body was thrown from Charlotte's shoulder and flew a distance of 2 meters before falling to the ground. Seeing that she was about to fall on a pile of rocks, Tang Yin reached out her hand and pushed a rock. Her body immediately bounced up again, and with a stretch, she stood agilely on the ground. This seemed to be the Tang sect's Qin Gong, and it was very amazing. Charlotte did not attack, and only looked at Tang Yin unhappily. Tang Yin had her hands behind her back and gently rubbed her plump buttocks. Although she did not make a sound, her innocent look of enduring the pain made people feel pity for her. How can you hit me there? The corners of Tang Yin's mouth curled up slightly, as if she had been wronged. Her hand was still rubbing her buttocks, and the plump and fertile area slowly rippled under her hand. It was like a ripple, very alluring. If she did not do this, Charlotte could still control his left eye, but she kept rubbing it. This in itself was a form of stimulation, a form of teasing. With this provocation and teasing, Xiaolei's left eye twitched uncontrollably, and the clothes on her body disappeared without a sound. Moreover, it happened in the span of a second. Her body was well-proportioned and slender, almost 175 meters tall, but she did not look thin at all. The places that should be big were big, and the places that should be thin were thin. Because she practiced martial arts and trained all year round, her lower abdomen did not have the baby fat that ordinary women had, but she had a few abdominal muscles that were not too obvious. The snow-white abdominal muscles not only gave people a sense of strength and wild beauty, but also a wonderful feeling that could not be described with words. As a female characteristic, her breasts were at least D-cup size, round, firm, and cute. Her buttocks were the best dolphin shape, and coupled with her snow-white, jade-like skin, it was extremely sexy. A pair of long legs occupied 2/3 of the length of her body, which was very similar to Liang Xiao. They were both women who practiced martial arts, and her legs were not only slender and round, but also had a sense of strength. In that sacred and mysterious place. Don't blame me. You asked for it. I didn't want to do this, Charlotte said to himself in his heart, and his breathing became short. Tang Yuyin had only stimulated him a little, and in the end he found a screen full of even more stimulating things for himself, and it was even high definition and uncensored. Hello. Tang Yuyin felt a little uncomfortable under Charlotte's stare. Why are you looking at me like that? Only then did Charlotte come back to his senses. He quickly looked up at the sky, and, at the same time, diverted his attention. Why did you attack me? Tang Yuyin smiled and said, Last time at the Martial Arts Circle Convention, I saw you defeat that Bruce Dragon, and I wanted to compete with you. I never had the chance before, and there were only the two of us here. Even if I was defeated by you, no one would know. The evil fire in his lower abdomen finally subsided, and Charlotte's left eye also returned to normal. However, he still didn't dare to look at Tang Yuyin, for fear that he would be provoked again and see through her. You're really powerful. I can't beat you, Tang Yuyin said. Only then did Charlotte look at Tang Yuyin. He smiled and said, Don't you think this is very boring? I know that the Tang sect's most powerful skills aren't fist techniques, but hidden weapons. If you use hidden weapons on me, I might not be able to beat you. Tang Yuyin shook her head and said, The Tang sect's hidden weapons are not to be trifled with. Once we use them, we usually kill the other party. I won't use hidden weapons on you. Just now, I saw that you were about to fall to the ground, but you flew up like a bird. Was that Qinggong? Charlotte's mind couldn't help but recall Tang Yuyin's movement. That movement was really beautiful and magical. Tang Yuyin smiled and said, Well, the Tang sect's Qinggong has hundreds of years of history, but it's not as exaggerated as described in wuxia novels, nor is it like in wuxia movies. It's a special use of strength and body. Let me tell you this, if I have a 3 to 5 meter run-up, I can jump over a 3-meter high wall. If the run-up distance is 10 meters, I can also jump over a 4 to 5 meter high obstacle. Charlotte couldn't help but exclaim, Amazing! Do you want to learn? Tang Yuyin stared at Charlotte. Charlotte was surprised and said, Can I learn? Of course you can. Tang Yuyin said with a smile. But you have to teach me Wing Chun. Charlotte revealed a smile. Okay, it's a deal. Exchanging Kung Fu, Charlotte has his own views and plans. Liang Zhengshun passed on the secret of Wing Chun to him and let him carry forward Wing Chun, which means that he is qualified to teach Tang Yuyin Wing Chun. Of course, the premise is that Tang Yuyin will also teach him the real Tang sect Kung Fu. If she had hidden her skills from him and only taught him some superficial skills, he would not have taught her the real Wing Chun style without reservation. I'll take you to the next piece of land now. After you decide which piece of land you want, I'll treat you to a meal and then go to my house. I'll teach you Qinggong and you teach me Wing Chun. What do you think? Tang Yuyin looked very excited. Charlotte smiled. Okay, you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.